Stay with us over the break.
If you're getting new gutters, make absolutely sure that you don't get screwed. I mean literally, don't get screwed. Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. And every single gutter company out there uses screws to hold their gutters together at the corners and downspouts. They use screws because they're fast and cheap and easy. But man, they're terrible for your gutters, aside from possibly cutting your hand. They also loosen and corrode over time because they're not made from the same metal as the gutters. At RGS Exteriors, we've been installing gutters for 70 years now, and we don't use screws. We only use permanent, strong, and unobtrusive rivets. They're made from the same material as the gutters, so they won't oxidize, and they won't corrode. They'll also never loosen. Your hand is safe too. Did I mention they look amazing? So don't get screwed. Call RGS and get riveted gutters. Our number is 801-280-3110, or visit us at rgsutah.com. That's 801-280-3110, or rgsutah.com.
Emergency traffic brought to you by Mountain America. You're going to have stopped traffic northbound Bangerter Highway just after you pass 70th South in South Jordan, all the way to 5400 South in Taylorsville, where a crash is blocking 2 right lanes of the freeway. Only 1 left lane is open there. We also have emergency traffic in Davis County, southbound I-15. A multi-vehicle crash is blocking 2 left lanes of the freeway, right where the West Davis corridor merges onto southbound I-15. That has traffic backed up to the Legacy Parkway exit in Centerville. Wasatch Front businesses and property managers, GoPave Utah provides all asphalt repairs for your parking. For patching and paving along the Wasatch Front, contact GoPave Utah. GoPaveUtah.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
This holiday season, give the gift of love that lasts a lifetime with Duke's Jewelers. For over 75 years, the Dukes family has been part of Utah Valley's story, helping yours celebrate life's most cherished moments since 1948. Dukes is more than a jewelry store. They're craftsmen, creating timeless pieces and custom designs that capture the magic of the holidays. Whether it's a sparkling necklace, a custom ring, or restoring a family heirloom, Duke's Jewelers pours their heart into every gift. Because jewelry isn't just about sparkle, it's about love and legacy. This Christmas, make your loved one feel like part of the Dukes family. Find the perfect gift at Duke's Jewelers, located at 220 South Main in Springville, or shop online at dukesjewelers.com. Duke's Jewelers, celebrating love and tradition since 1948.
You've got your whole life ahead of you, so choose a Medicare plan you can count on. And that's what you get with a Medicare Advantage plan from United Healthcare. With more than 45 years' experience serving its members, United Healthcare has plans with low monthly premiums that fit your life today and as your needs change tomorrow. The Medicare annual enrollment period ends December 7th, so go to uhc.com/Medicare today. United Healthcare Medicare plans. It's Medicare coverage Utah can count on.
Pacific Corp is hosting a virtual public open house meeting to discuss a proposed 45-mile transmission line in southern Utah Valley that will span from Spanish Fork to Eagle Mountain. The meeting will take place on November 10th from 6 to 7 p.m. on Zoom. The proposed transmission line will improve system reliability for customers, meeting increasing electrical demand in the region, and connect additional energy resources. Get details and learn more at pacificorp.com/Spanish Fork.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have leaf filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
To get this special radio offer, go to leaffilter.com/deal for your free gutter inspection today and get up to 30% off. That's leaffilter.com/deal for up to 30% off. leaffilter.com/deal. See representative for warranty details.
Common Spirit Health. Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advance healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with human kindness is here. Hello, human kindness.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
So we're talking about Utahns. 51% of Utahns feel like they are able to meet monthly expenses, but they cannot save. And 25% of Utahns are saying they're not even struggling to meet basic monthly expenses. So text us 57500 what your biggest financial concern is. And we did have a texter that reached out over the break. Times are different now than they were 20 years ago. This person says, it used to be as long as somebody could make a 5 or 10% profit on a rental place, that's all they would charge. Now they go according to the going rate, which could be a whole lot more than that, which that's probably a fair look at it. So we called up Shane Stewart. He's a certified financial planner with DMBA. And we talked to him about this and asked him how people, like what they can do to break out of this paycheck to paycheck cycle. And he recommends a candid look at your finances as a good first step.
The way to get out of that cycle is to really scrutinize what you're spending. Most people don't really know what they're spending. They're just spending to survive rather than analyzing that. And as painful as it might be, it helps to take a look at once in a while your monthly expenses and really identify where you're spending your money and where you could do better. Most people don't like to do that, including myself. I'm a financial planner. I don't like to do that. But if you'll bite the bullet and do that once in a while, it's extremely helpful to just track what you spend. And you don't even have to make some significant changes. Just know what you're spending, and you'll see that you'll start to self-regulate.
So one of the issues that I struggle with, and I know other people do too, those subscriptions that you like sign up for and then forget about them.
Yeah. Well, the ones in my case, the ones you have to sign up for to watch a single football game. And then you're just like, you go to sign up for it. And it's like, well, it's $7 to watch this one game for this 1 month, or it's really only like $180 for the year. Yeah, it's, just
right.
But then it's on there and you're like, when was the last time I clicked on HBO Max?
Right, exactly.
Like, I know we watched that one show about 2 years ago. How often? When was the last time we watched something there?
It's terrible. I do that
But I know
too.
as soon as I cancel it. Well, a lot of times you can't because I've just bought the year.
Right.
But then even if you decide to, you go, well, as soon as I do, I'm going to see something that I want to watch.
There'll be something amazing.
Suddenly something came up.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one issue. We have another texter. She says she's a single mom. She's 59. She's worked for this company for 20 years. She has 2 self-sufficient, for the most part, college students. She pays their car insurance and their phone. She has no car payments. They drive 15-year-old cars and contributes modestly to her retirement. She says she has not been on a vacation since 2012. We don't eat out with taxes, groceries, and home maintenance costs. Same home for 20 years, 2% interest. She says that with health care, car insurance, and the cost of everything creeping up, I have no savings, only what's in my retirement, literally paycheck to paycheck. So I think what we're seeing is that more and more Utahns, in fact, I saw an article this morning that talked about the economy starting to wobble. So when we talked with Shane Stewart, we asked him to share advice for people who are worried about the government shutdown, which is now in day 34.
34?
Yeah, 34.
Less than 48 hours away to making it the longest in history.
I don't know if we were really hopeful to set that new record. But in any case, we asked him to share his advice for people who are affected by the government shutdown. He has one key message.
One is to not panic. Panic isn't probably necessary, at least yet right now. I know it's a little unnerving to learn that you're not getting the source of income that you're used to, but you likely will get it. It's just going to be delayed. However, in the meantime, be resourceful. Reach out to state and local and even charitable organizations to see if they can help you bridge the gap. Many of these are already aware that SNAP benefits are delayed, and so they're already reaching out. State agencies and even charitable organizations are reaching out, and so go find them and see what you can do to get that stream of income temporarily covered.
So, Marty, you mentioned that you think housing costs really are impacting this feeling that we're struggling to meet paycheck to go paycheck to paycheck. And I know that when we bought our first home, and since then, I think the benchmark was about 30% of your income could go to a housing payment. I heard on the morning news coming in this morning that there are people who are, it's more than 60%.
Yeah.
And that makes it really hard.
So I don't know that it's the thing that's driving the problem for everyone, because some of us bought houses long ago and sit there and go, hey, thank heavens, because I don't know if I could afford my house right
exactly.
now if it were suddenly on the market. Thank goodness I bought it a decade ago. So I think that's the case for not necessarily for everyone, but certainly for younger people who are trying to get into a house or are renting with inflated prices right now. That's one of those things that just takes a massive chunk out of your budget, because you got to have someplace to live, right? But the things that I think are more variable and probably hitting more currently, like it seems like food prices every so often we're like, well, why are eggs so much, or why is this so much? And recently even the Speaker of the House has been talking about, why are gas prices so high,
especially in Utah?
It's like I gotta look at 2 refineries while I drive in, but suddenly every time I go by the pump, I'm seeing it's
higher than many places in the nation.
It starts with a 3, and most places are at least starting with a 2. I don't remember the last time it was below $2.99.
You have to go to Costco, because I filled up for $2.85 at Costco this weekend.
Well, I'll say this: it seems always to be a little bit higher in Kaysville than everywhere else in Davis County. Too,
that may
I
be
go to
true.
Layton and go, wait a minute, gas is it's like 20 cents cheaper here.
Interesting.
But, yeah. And I don't notice it as much. I have an electric car, but I notice it when I have to go take my wife's car to get some gas in it.
Yeah.
Or, I know that people are putting gas in cars in my household.
Yeah.
So they get to deal with that. So I would think that food is primarily like one of the newer drivers that you go, I used to spend about X amount on food, now I spend more, or it's costing a little bit more to go to grab a burger,
right?
Whether it's
for sure,
casual dining, fast food, something like that.
Yeah, for sure. We have a texter that says it's property taxes that are killing us. They said their property taxes were $300 a month when they first moved in, and now it's $900 a month, right? And we've had a discussion on Inside Sources previously talking about property taxes increasing in so many different counties right now. And my taxes went up a fair chunk this year.
Yeah. One of those taxes that just really gets you. Like, I already bought this thing.
It seems to feel more personal, right? So we've talked about the 3-legged stool even of taxes, and property taxes, income tax, and sales tax, but the property tax seems to really evoke a visceral reaction.
Yeah. Most people, if they added up all the taxes that they actually pay, that's when you would have some kind of real backlash to government. Go like, wait.
Yeah.
What is it we really are spending money on, and what do we really need, right?
Yeah,
so as much as everyone wants to do a review of their finances, I think if they did that, they'd probably mostly look at government and go, wait, do we need the
what
assistant
are you
deputy
doing
to this, that, or whatever? Right.
So Shane Stewart that we talked to says there is a light at the end of the tunnel. The shutdown won't go on forever. I don't know if he knows that, but he did say that. These
SNAP benefits being delayed should be a temporary issue, and the reason being is because those that make decisions also understand this is not only a human issue, it's also an economic issue. If we go more than a couple of months of delayed SNAP benefits, it starts to impact the economy, because those benefits turn into the grocery stores and the people who provide the food and those kind of things. It'll start to impact the economy, and we really can't afford that as a nation either. And so they're going to have to come up with a solution, an agreement, start making it less political and more human.
We have 2 more texters. Again, I told you we have really great listeners, and they text in. So one texter says, for me being a single mother, my biggest financial needs are paying my rent and car payments. Now I have medical bills that need to be paid, and it's hard. I live paycheck to paycheck, and sometimes it's paycheck to another paycheck in a month or so. So that makes it really rough. And another one says many home budgets suffer from unlisted or undocumented or untotaled categories, secret hobbies or secret addictions, for example. And we've talked about that too, how it's, in fact, some people call it financial infidelity, because somebody's spending money, but they're not really talking about it. I maybe used to do that when I was buying a lot of fabric. It just would show up in my closet, and my husband would say, is that new? It's like, oh, no, I got it a while ago.
How many lives have been ruined by secret fabric addictions, Holly?
Well, I don't know about that one, but there may be some others. Look, we know it really is a kind of a wobbly time, maybe a scary time. We're headed into the holidays, and there's definitely economic uncertainty right now.
Do you think overall it changes the tone if we get a deal, say, by the end of this week, that the federal government is reopened? Does that change anything, or is it one of those things that just kind of hangs over people, even though it may not necessarily impact every family.
Yeah, I
It just
think
sort
the
of puts
answer
a
is
dark
yes
cloud
to
over it.
both. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's not just the shutdown and the federal workers who are impacted, but we're talking about just a runaway national debt, right? We're at $38 trillion, and it took 180 days to go from 37 to 38.
Yeah.
That's still increasing while the government is shut down. So I think there's some of both, right? And when we talk to economists, they tell us that there are mixed messages being sent by the economy, right? So some things look good, like the stock market seems to be doing well, but the labor market is being really stagnant. People aren't changing jobs. They're not hiring or firing. Anyway, so we don't know. All right, so you know this and I know this, but if our listeners aren't aware, Election Day is tomorrow. Woohoo! We're going to touch base with Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson about what you need to know about the deadlines and the importance of municipal races. Stay tuned.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour: never before have American workers wasted more time sitting in traffic. ABC's Jim Ryan has more on what a recent report released by Texas A&M University says about the average commuter.
What used to be called rush hour is no longer restricted to weekday mornings and afternoons. The mobility report finds more commuters on the road in the middle of the day and on weekends. Truck congestion has risen dramatically in the past 6 years as more people do their shopping at home and have merchandise delivered by truck to their front doors.
Ryan says the average commuter spends 63 hours a year staring through the windshield. The Alpine Loop that runs from American Fork Canyon to the backside of Mount Timpanogos and then to Provo Canyon will close for the season today. Guardsman Pass between Brighton and Big Cottonwood Canyon and Park City closed Sunday night. We're still waiting to get closing dates for Monte Cristo and the Mirror Lake Highway. The number 8 ranked BYU football team is getting ready for their biggest game so far this season. The Cougars will be in Lubbock, Texas this Saturday to play number 9 Texas Tech. It's the first time BYU will play a top 10 team while being ranked in the top 10 themselves. BYU is looking to remain undefeated and stay in first place in the Big 12 standings.
We've had plenty of time to receive praise and pat ourselves on the back. Part of staying humble and staying hungry is that we would get hungry and get back on the path of working and make sure that we're getting where we want to be by the time we take the field again. And
that's BYU head coach Kalani Sitake. Kickoff is at 10 o'clock this Saturday morning. Catch the game live here on KSL News Radio. Your money at this moment: the Dow down 175 points this morning to 47,387. Coming up, we've still got emergency traffic to deal with on the roads. Traffic and weather together is next. KSL News Time 9:32.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
This is Christian Staples with Arctic Spas. Way back in 1989, I started servicing hot tubs in Park City, and I learned the hard way in the freezing winter in the mountains that hot tubs are not built for Utah's harsh climate. I then found the Arctic Spa, the most northern manufacturer of hot tubs built specifically for the northern climates. Arctic Spas use perimeter insulation similar to your house where the outside walls are insulated. This allows us to utilize the excess heat from the motors to help heat the water and reduce your electric cost each month. Since then, we have sold 10,000 Arctic Spas here in Utah. We've learned that Arctic Spas last longer because they are built stronger. You can just feel the difference. Arctic Spas are easier to fix because we put access panels all the way around the spa, which makes it less expensive for you. Add this to the lower electric bills each month, and you end up with the least expensive hot tub to own over the long term. Arctic Spas, with stores covering all of Utah in Salt Lake, American Fork, and St. George, or online at arcticspasutah.com. Arctic Spas, the only spa built for Utah's harsh climate.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Do you spend half your day walking or standing while working? If you have foot, knee, or back problems, the Good Feet store wants to help you like we helped Tony.
Pain that I experience the most is foot pain from being on my feet all day. You're having to kind of talk to yourself through the whole shift, like, I got this, I can do this. Before, I felt defeated, and now it's like, all right, let's go, I'm ready. A whole new life, like sunshine coming on.
And how about working more comfortably, like Dennis?
Working at an amusement park, it's always on your feet. I just couldn't take it, but I didn't have a choice. I just couldn't believe that putting these arch supports in made that much of a difference that quickly. I could do my job and I could take care of my family. I know what my tomorrow's gonna be. It's gonna be positive.
You deserve a better life too. Stop in the Good Feet store today. We have locations in Farmington, Riverton, and Sandy.
Thanks to the
If you've got a gas-powered engine, keep it running like new at every fill-up. Stable in-season protection is your engine's preventative medicine, cleaning and protecting the entire fuel system in season. In outdoor power equipment, prevent gum and varnish buildup that could cause a rough or non-running engine. For cars and trucks, increase fuel efficiency and power by removing deposits, ensuring your engine's long-term health. Stable outperforms the competition in independent lab testing. So at every fill-up, start with Stable.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With the Capital One Venture X card, you earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy. Plus, you get premium benefits at a collection of luxury hotels when you book on Capital One Travel. And with Venture X, you get access to over 1,000 airport lounges worldwide. Open up a world of travel possibilities with the Capital One Venture X card. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Emergency traffic brought to you by Mountain America. Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape. Heather, what's the update?
Well, this is for drivers southbound I-15 in Davis County. You are encountering a wall of traffic, pretty much stopped from the Park Lane exit in Farmington all the way down to where the West Davis corridor merges onto I-15 southbound. It was due to a crash that was blocking 2 left lanes of the freeway. And about 30 to 45 seconds ago, they all just pulled away. All the lanes just reopened. It's going to take a little bit of time to clear out the delays, however. And the crash northbound on Bangor Highway at 54 South in Taylorsville, it is still there, but they have reopened 2 of the left-hand lanes. So most of those delays just cleared out a few minutes ago. Home ownership is slipping away in Utah, and young Utahns are being priced out of their own communities. Learn more about Utah's housing and shortage and what we can do to begin to fix it all at demandmoresupply.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today, partly sunny with highs reaching around 70 degrees. That's the same tomorrow and Wednesday, and then the temperature will drop about 10 degrees by Thursday. Right now, it's 48 degrees from the KSL Comet Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Well, today it's Holly Richardson and Marty Carpenter, partner with Northbound Strategy. And Marty, we have been involved in politics for a long time, Utah politics, and so has our guest, Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson, been involved for quite a while. In fact, that's how I met you, was politics.
2008.
Yeah. So today is the election eve, election day eve. I do have this little bit of trivia for you, and you know this, Lieutenant Governor, but Martha Hughes Cannon was the first person elected in the country to serve in a state senate, and she was elected on this day in 1896.
129 years ago.
Yay, Martha.
Yay, Martha.
Okay, so tell us what we need to know about ballots today. Can we mail our ballots in today?
Well, you can, but don't if you want them to count.
Do not mail your ballots today. You've missed that window.
Yeah, tomorrow's election day. Some new laws went into effect this year. The most significant one that voters really need to know about is the fact that now, instead of having a postmark deadline for your ballot, they have an in-hand deadline for your ballot. So it used to be that you could postmark it the day before, and it would, maybe take a couple of days to get in, and that would be fine. Your ballot would still count. That law has been scrapped. That is not a thing anymore in the state of Utah. Now, your clerk actually has to have the ballot in their hand by close of polls on Election Day. So that's 8 o'clock tomorrow, which means if you have not yet voted, you can take your ballot today to a drop box. All of the cities in the state of Utah have a drop box. Go find a drop box, put it in there, or you can go vote tomorrow. You can put it in a drop box tomorrow or vote in person tomorrow, but please don't put it in the mail.
What's the best way to figure out where a drop box might be in your municipality if you need to go vote?
Well, you can get on your county clerk's website. Almost all of the county clerks are actually running the municipal elections. There's a few exceptions. Or you can go to vote.utah.gov, which is the statewide election website, and get that information.
So what is the timing for voting in person tomorrow? When did the polls open? When did they close?
I think 7 a.m. and then they close at 8. And to find those in-person locations, you'll want to go to vote.utah.gov or go to your county clerk's website you'll just type in your address and it'll tell you where all the voting locations
This one matters a lot. Obviously, if you're in a municipal race,
Right.
you're very much in tune to this. It's always maybe seems like a nice trial run for the next time we have
Yeah.
one of our quote unquote big elections where we have statewide races in it. Do you look at you don't look at it that way? I don't want to make try to put words in your mouth, but it is nice to have one that's sort of on a smaller scale, at least as far as maybe voter turnout compared to what you'll have in a presidential election year, a gubernatorial election year, where you can say, hey, we've tested out these new laws of people get a chance to understand that they need to bring it to a ballot box or that it needs to be in hand and not just postmarked by a certain day. Is it nice at least to have a little bit of a trial run involved there?
I mean, sure. The laws change we have a legislative session every year,
Yeah.
and we tend to get.
Do they pass new laws every year?
They do.
Imagine that.
They do.
Up to and exceeding a dozen.
But I do wish that we did have greater participation in our municipal elections. These are really important elections. These are your mayors, your city council members, local races that have a direct impact on your life.
Yeah.
And yet it is the lowest turnout. And that's unfortunate. But it's how it's always been. I don't necessarily see that changing, unfortunately.
What do we see with turnout so far this year? I mean, we're the day before.
Right. So turnout is kind of hard to measure. So we're going to use a different word. We're going to use a return rate on ballots that were mailed out, because not every voter in the state is going to have an election to vote in, because some cities don't have any races. Or if you live in an unincorporated area, you're not going to have a race. So we had about 1.5 million ballots that were mailed out, and we've had about 284,000 returned as of this morning. That's about 18%, just over 18% of the ballots that have been mailed out have actually been returned.
Wow.
So, we've got today and tomorrow. Hopefully those numbers go up. During the primary election a little earlier this year, it was about a 26% return rate.
So are we expecting that, excuse me, a pretty good size in-person voting tomorrow?
Well, potentially, or just a lot of returns at the drop boxes.
Okay.
You've been a candidate. You've won several races. You've won some notable ones. How much do you love the idea of being able to know who the winner is by the end of the night, because ballots have to be in hand?
Yeah, we're not going to know the winner. I mean, that's just not a thing. Like, there's no way to know the winner by the end of election day. I mean, it's just not going to happen, even with the in-hand rule, because you've got overseas ballots that come in. You've got ballots that the signatures need to be cured. We've got 2 weeks to canvass for the clerks to canvass those elections. So final results are never going to be
right. Finally calling them, but in some races they're not going to be so close that people can, at least if you're a candidate, say
the best.
Yeah, either one, or I can start to think about my next chapter.
In a race where there's it's clearly there's clearly a winner, clearly someone far in the lead. Yeah, those will be. You can probably determine those closer to election night. But in any close race, it's just you're going to have to wait. People are just going to have to be patient, and that's just the way it is. I mean.
So when results are released at about 8:05, whatever it is, on election day, what are those votes looking at? What are those?
And this is really important key information. If you want faster results, you got to bring your ballot, return your ballot early, because those are the results that come right after close of polls on election night, is the early returns.
Okay.
All the stuff that was voted on that day, those aren't going to be counted that night.
So I do have to say that there's this food drive that I thought was a great idea. And I don't know if anybody else is going to pick up on this, but this is Utah County, where you and I both live, Lieutenant Governor. There are 4 polling locations, so American Fork, Pleasant Grove, Provo, and Vineyard, that are collecting food. They're doing a food drive for the Utah Food Bank at the same time that they're collecting ballots. They're also collecting food.
I love that. And hopefully, even if you don't vote in those areas, go take some food over to your local food bank today.
Yeah.
I think that's a really great idea.
Yeah, I think that's great. So just in the last minute-ish that we have, can you just tell us really briefly the difference between an indirect initiative and a direct initiative? And this has to do with Proposition 4.
Yeah, sure. An indirect initiative is a method whereby about 70,000 people can sign a petition to to propose a law to the legislature to have an up or down vote on. And a direct initiative is a process whereby about 140,000 people can sign a petition and submit a law to the voters of the state of Utah to vote on.
Let me ask you this follow-up, because I had not heard of indirect initiative until the beginning of October. Is that something that's used very often? Like, I just don't remember hearing about it.
No, it's in statute. I think it's been in statute for a long time. I can't say definitively whether or not it's ever been used before. It certainly hasn't in my time as lieutenant governor or in my recent memory. But the direct initiative is part of our state constitution. It was adopted, I believe, in 1900. So it was, shortly after statehood when that was put into place in our state constitution. The other one probably several years later.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Look, we're going to talk about negative campaigning. We're right before Election Day. We've seen it. This cycle's no exception. And some local elections have been turning, quote, nasty and dirty. But there are also candidates who are saying, look, we're staying above the fray. So we'll talk about that when we come back. And we're streaming live at KSLNewsRadio.com and on the app for KSL News Radio, sponsored by At Your Service Pros.
Every child deserves to feel safe, seen, heard, and loved. The Children's Center Utah helps make that possible. For more than 60 years, their expert team has provided life-changing mental health care for young children and their families. This care plays a crucial role when a child's development matters most, providing early intervention and the tools they need to thrive before a family faces significant crisis and expense. Addressing crucial mental, behavioral, and emotional concerns now. Today, the Children's Center Utah is expanding, bringing hope and healing to even more communities across Utah. This outreach will ensure greater access for more Utah children and their families. You'll hear more about it in the days and weeks ahead. In the meantime, if a child in your life needs support, the Children's Center Utah is here to help. Visit childrencenterutah.org to learn, give, or get involved. The Children's Center Utah, where hope and healing happen.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
You've got your whole life ahead of you, so choose a Medicare plan you can count on. And that's what you get with a Medicare Advantage plan from United Healthcare. With more than 45 years' experience serving its members, United Healthcare has plans with low monthly premiums that fit your life today and as your needs change tomorrow. The Medicare annual enrollment period ends December 7th, so go to uhc.com/Medicare today. United Healthcare Medicare plans. It's Medicare coverage Utah can count on.
How do you gain an advantage in the #1 economy in the nation? Attend the Utah Business Forward Conference, where Utah's best business minds share their knowledge about the innovation, resilience, strategy, and relationships it takes to propel your business and career to the next level. Get access to leaders in various industries, from product development and manufacturing to finance and entrepreneurship. Make plans today to attend Utah Business Forward on November 17th, 2025 at Hyatt Regency Salt Lake City. Sign up now at forward.utahbusiness.com.
Do you have chirping smoke detectors? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and if you've ever experienced chirping smoke detectors, you already know how annoying it can be. A great first step to try and stop the chirping is to change the batteries. If the chirping continues, it's possible that your smoke detector has gone bad. As a matter of fact, a lot of people don't even realize that manufacturers recommend replacing the smoke detector altogether after 10 years. If you remove the smoke detector from the wall, on the back you should find a date of when it was made. Do a little math and you'll know how old it is. Now, Any Hour Services knows being a homeowner means you've got a list a mile long of things to do around the house, and check my electrical system probably isn't one of them. That's why we've put together this radio special for any homeowners listening. One of our licensed electricians will perform a comprehensive inspection of your electrical system that includes testing those smoke detectors and give you a full written report for only $29. But you have to mention this ad when you call. Call Any Hour Services to schedule it. 801-443-7300. 801-443-7300. Any Hour Services.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have leaf filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/radio to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
To get this special radio offer, go to leaffilter.com/radio for your free gutter inspection today and get up to 30% off. That's leaffilter.com/radio for up to 30% off. leaffilter.com/radio. See representative for warranty details.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
So, it happens every year, and I wish it didn't, but we have campaign signs that have been defaced, social media attacks, campaign signs stolen. So the headline on KSL.com is, quote, nasty and dirty. Ogden Valley mayoral hopefuls keep focus on issues amid intense campaign. And the dirt isn't coming from the candidates this time. It's coming from their supporters.
Which may or may not be coming from the candidates.
Well,
I don't know in this specific case, but I would say those two aren't always a separate operation.
You're correct. You're correct. So I'm talking with Marty Carpenter. He's joining me today. He's partner with Northbound Strategy. And, you know, it's the intrigue in this race. It's interesting to me. So this is a new incorporation. So it's a new area up in Eden Valley that is becoming a city. And so they have their first mayoral race, their first city candidate race. And one of the things as I'm looking at the article on KSL.com is there's a picture of one of the candidates, and her name is Janet Wampler, and she's standing in front of a sign that people have, you know, drawn a mustache and beard on and circles around her eyes with a black marker. So she did the same to her face, and then she's standing in front of it.
That's how you turn a bad story into a good one,
right? That's right. That's right. So it just made me think, you know, I've seen it too in some other mayoral races this cycle, but it just seems to happen all the time. Why, Marty, do people do negative campaigning? Why?
Well, there's, I guess, two questions there. Why do supporters go and do things like that, whether they're connected to the campaign or not? And it's mostly because they get frustrated or overly emotional or overly involved in it. When a campaign actually does it, you know, it's almost always out of some form of desperation. Hey, this is either too close for comfort for me, or I'm behind and I've got to throw a Hail Mary and try to get into this. I always think it's driven, or I think it's most often driven by a ticking clock. And sometimes when you don't have a lot of time, you don't have time to teach or persuade.
Right.
You only have time to scare. And, you know, scaring is not the best long-term strategy, but if you're dealing with, I have a finite amount of time and it's a short amount of time, the best I can do is just scare people. So if I want votes, but I can't teach them why they should vote for me, my quickest strategy is to scare them about the opponent, and then maybe I pick up those votes.
You know, sometimes I see negative flyers come in the mail, and you can without even reading a single word, you can tell that it's an attack ad because they do like this dark grayish overlay and
pictures are black and white.
Very unflattering image of the candidate, right? It's like, oh my gosh, I know what this is right off the bat. You know, there used to be a thing called an October surprise. Do you want to explain that to our listeners?
Yeah, that's when you get into the final days of the campaign and suddenly you've been holding on to some juicy negative nugget and you decide to release that at what you hope is the most impactful time, the worst time for your opponent, the best time for you. Every campaign goes in saying, what could we be vulnerable to that could be the October surprise? Every campaign usually goes in with some type of, hey, if we need to, here's an ace up our sleeve. And sometimes the October surprise has nothing to do with anything you've planned, and it's just something that happens in October that when people are probably paying the most attention to the political races, you have to really nail what your response is to that situation, that crisis. And that's where people get to see sort of what you're made of, and they make a decision based on not what you've done for the past year and a half, but what you've done sort of in that one moment.
So has early voting and vote by mail, where you have 4 weeks, has that really changed the nature of these negative October surprises?
I don't really think that it has, in the sense that the votes you collect early are the ones you were going to get no matter what, right? Those are sort of your diehards. People who say, it's not that I'm voting because I'm going to be busy on election day.
Right.
Maybe you get some of that, but the vast majority of that is I know exactly what my ballot's going to look like. Let me just fill it out and send it in.
Mhm.
So October surprise or no October surprise or a double October surprise, nothing's going to change this. This is where I'm voting, right? And so you get a lot of people voting that way, and I don't think that impacts. Now, what that means is things can get a little more intense for everyone who hasn't voted early because campaigns can tell who's voted early and who
Right,
hasn't.
exactly.
They don't know how you voted, but they know if you voted. And if you voted, they will start to leave you alone very quickly.
Right.
Sophisticated campaigns will leave you alone very quickly. The ones that aren't as sophisticated may still have some messaging coming to you where they're just wasting money and effort. So, yeah, if you want to be out of the mix, vote early. And if you want to follow everything right up to the minute and then make your decision, I think it's going to seem more intense for you because suddenly they're saying,
more targeted.
I've got all this money that I'm supposed to spend to get this done, but now I've taken a bunch of voters off the rolls as far as I'm concerned, people who I can no longer persuade,
right?
And I get to go focus on these folks.
So we do have several texters that have weighed in on this. One says, and I agree with this, nasty, dirty campaign ads are an extreme turnoff. And another one, which I also agree with, unfortunately, negative campaigns work, which I think is why people keep doing them, right? People say they hate them, but they work.
Both of those statements, right? Everybody, I hate them. I do hate them. But if they work, even if you don't think they work on you, probably you actually have had them work on you. You just don't remember that one.
Right.
Or in some instances, it's fine. It didn't work on you, but it did work on a bunch of other people. So campaigns are going to do the thing that's most effective. That's the decision you're making every time. What's going to make the biggest impact for me, not only now, but overall.
Yeah.
And overall gets to be a shorter and shorter window. Right now that window is less than 20, I guess it's 36 hours, something like that.
Right.
So like right now you can say, okay, these are the people who we think are persuadable.
Yeah.
And we're going to hit them with everything we got until we think we get their vote.
Yeah, interesting. And one other texter says when candidates do lying campaigning, that tells me they can't be trusted in office because they'll resort to lying, right? So I have another, from a broad perspective with this year's municipal cycle, what are you seeing generally with maybe negative campaigning? I'm seeing a lot on social media.
Are you really?
Yeah.
I've seen the stuff in Sandy. I've read the stuff about in Eden. I live in Kaysville, and I would say you could totally not know that there's an election going on, right? We have a mayoral election, and there aren't that many signs up. Like you wouldn't just drive around and be like, oh, we've got an election.
Yeah.
There are a couple signs here and there, that I'm seeing, and maybe I'm just driving on the wrong side of town. I don't know. Maybe they're all concentrated somewhere else, but I haven't seen a lot of it where I live. It is interesting because a lot of it can focus online, right? So now it's not signs or defacing signs so much as it is.
Or maybe because you're up
online.
north and I'm seeing stuff in Utah County. So we've got a mayoral election. I've seen some of that online be heated, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it in the Provo mayor's race as well. I've seen it down in Riverton. And then you mentioned it's Draper, right, where there's like driving up and down State Street. You've got conflicting signs, and some of them are not very nice. And it's interesting. And it's also interesting, too. I remember Mike Lee actually saying, as he was getting close to one election, this is the time of year where everybody, hates puppies and I don't know, something like that, right? It's like, don't believe anything you're seeing the last week or so, because a lot of times it is these types of October surprises.
Yeah, it really does turn into this silly season. And
silly season.
People sort of get into that, you get so hyper-focused on winning. And if if you're a campaign manager or staffer or you're the candidate, that's what you're trying to do. And the interesting thing, of course, about an election is it is a zero-sum game. It's not like we both can win.
I know.
Right? Someone's going to win and someone's going to lose, and that just ratchets up the intensity of it.
Yeah.
And in that case, you often run into situations where now it becomes a little more tempting to say, can I compromise on the integrity rate? Not to necessarily cheat, but just am I going to be a little bit meaner?
They
am I
hate
say
dogs.
Something,
Yeah.
Am I going to say something now that I wouldn't have said 4 months ago?
Right.
Or something I wouldn't say if I had a 15-point lead instead of a 2-point lead. What am I going to say here? And look, it's great that we try to say that we expect really nice things about campaigns, but campaigns know that they can go negative, especially in a condensed portion of time, and it is going to make a difference, and that's why they do it every time.
Yeah, interesting. So if you're out there and you haven't voted yet, keep those things in mind when you see stuff online or you get something in your mail between today and tomorrow. One of the things that always struck me as funny, unless I was running a campaign, is the flyers that land after Election Day is over. That's rough, man.
Yeah. Well, if you win, you kind of go, well, we wasted a little money. But if you lose and then you see that you spent some money that didn't have any impact, that's always a bummer.
Yeah.
And I speak to that from a campaign manager perspective and saying, you want to make sure you're not the first one to run out of money. But on the flip side of that, you're also trying to spend it all and not really, you don't want to lose and say, oh, you know what? I lost with $25,000 in the bank or $100,000 in the bank, depending on the size of the race.
That's right. So look, as the shutdown drags on, as we mentioned now in day 34, Utah, some congressional staffers in Utah and elsewhere are having to be creative with how they meet monthly payments. And we'll talk about that when we come back.
KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. This is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour. One teenager is dead and another in critical condition after a fight broke out at a Halloween party in West Valley. Police say a 17 and 15-year-old were shot. Some other people at the party attempted to take the two teens to the hospital, but crashed not too far from the area. It's unclear if the 17-year-old died from the shooting or the crash. The investigation is still underway. Ogden Police and the Weber Metro Cold Case Task Force are reopening a cold case from 2013. Ryan Bush's body was found at a recycling facility in California and then traced back to the Weber County Transfer Station. Investigators don't know how it got through the system or ended up on the truck to California. Anyone with information on the case is encouraged to reach out. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The reality of the federal government shutdown is setting in for airline passengers.
Air traffic controllers and airport security officers have been declared essential personnel and ordered to keep working with or without a paycheck. But some TSA agents have been calling in sick, creating massive lines at security checkpoints. Passengers flying out of Houston's Bush Intercontinental Airport Sunday waited more than 3 hours in lines that extended through the terminal, out the door, and down the sidewalk. Jim Ryan, ABC News.
Your money at this moment, the Dow down 168 points this morning to 47,394. Well, we took care of the emergency traffic, but there's still a couple of spots for people to be aware of when we check traffic and weather together. Next, KSL News Time, 10:01.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
You gave years, maybe decades to your job. You showed up, worked hard, and planned for retirement. But now, the company's changed. Or maybe you've taken a buyout or been forced into early retirement. So, what happens next? I'm Jeff Jr., founder of Trajan Wealth. And if you've built up a 401k or thrift savings plan, now is the time to ask, is that money really working for you? Many workplace retirement plans offer limited options and even less guidance. At Trajan Wealth, we help people just like you roll over their accounts into IRAs with more flexibility and personalized investment strategies built around your goals. For households with $500,000 or more, let us build you a personalized plan. We operate on veteran values, service, trust, and doing what's right. Your next chapter starts now. Call Trajan today, 801-207-9900. That's 801-207-9900.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. See website for details.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. Ever wonder why Big Wireless wants you on an unlimited plan? They probably want you to cover the cost of those 20-somethings using all that data every month. But most people 50 and up like me only use 12 gigs or less. Don't get bamboozled by Big Wireless. Switch to Consumer Cellular. Our plans start at just $20, and we use the same towers as the big guys. Join the millions who choose something better, because if you're not using all that data, you're probably getting used.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
When it comes to my lifestyle and diet, I don't always make the smartest choices.
Touchdown! Woo! Hey, how about another round and some more chips?
But when it comes to taking care of my liver, I do make one very smart choice. Active Liver tablets from New Nordic. I used to have real issues with my liver, and at my last checkup, my doc was concerned about my numbers. But since adding a once-a-day Active Liver tablet, my gut's better, I feel great, and my doctor's happy. I ask a lot of my liver, so the least I can do to say thanks is a daily dose of Active Liver.
We ask a lot of our liver, so give it the support it deserves with an easy daily detox from Active Liver. Made with natural ingredients like turmeric, milk thistle, and globe artichoke, Active Liver helps cleanse and protect your liver so you feel less bloated and more energized. Find Active Liver online at Amazon, Vitacost.com, or iHerb.com. Or pick it up today at CVS, Meijer Grocery, or ShopRite. When your liver is happy, your body is happy. Enjoy life to the fullest with Active Liver.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America. Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape. Heather Kelly?
We finally have good speeds on all the roadways across the Wasatch Front. No delays right now. I-15, either northbound or southbound throughout Utah, Salt Lake, Davis, or Weber counties. All those earlier crashes we had have cleared. All the lanes are open. Now, there's still a crash on Bangerter Highway. This is northbound at 5400 South in Taylorsville. The good news is most of the vehicles have tucked themselves behind the construction barrels, and you have two left lanes that are open, so not causing a whole lot of delay in that area right now. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
We should reach 69 degrees today, which is just 2 degrees short of a record set back in 1965. The warmth continues into Tuesday and Wednesday before a cold front moves in, dropping temperatures down into the 50s by Thursday. Right now it's 49 degrees and partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
So I'm Holly Richardson. I'm joined by Marty Carpenter, partner with Northbound Strategy. And look, Marty, we've been talking about the shutdown off and on. We've been talking about how inflation is impacting people and paycheck to paycheck. So there are some Utah members of Congress who are opting out of their pay. And that includes Representative Blake Moore, Representative Mike Kennedy, and Senator John Curtis. They've all said they're going to go without pay while the government is shut down.
Yeah, interesting that you wouldn't just do it as like a whole group, right? Because it automatically goes, well, they are, but who's not and why?
So that's an interesting question, and we'll get to that when we have our guests. But let me just say, Mike Kennedy introduced a bill, I think it was like October 1st, maybe the very first day of the shutdown, that was a basically no work, no pay bill, that if they weren't able to work as a body, that they shouldn't be getting paid either. Of course, it doesn't go anywhere.
Oh, you mean that didn't sail through Congress and get signed immediately by the president?
There were several bills that were introduced on the Senate side, too. Same thing. It's like, yeah, they just don't go anywhere.
What's the thing that Warren Buffett used to say? Like, the way to fix everything that's wrong in Congress is basically to pass a law that says anytime...
If you don't balance the budget, I think it was.
It's like over 3% of inflation.
Yeah, yeah.
If you don't balance the budget, then you're not eligible for re-election.
Yeah, that's right.
Like everybody's not.
Oh, yeah,
He's
that's
like,
right.
Get done like that.
That's right.
Problem is that has to get passed and signed by the very people.
By the people that affects, which is why we can't get term limits passed either, by the way.
There's not one of those indirect or direct petition things you can do with Congress.
John Curtis was on C-SPAN over the weekend, and he said if we don't get paid, it's just so wrong, right? So, I mean, if we get paid, it's so wrong.
Yeah.
So
the important one to get right.
I know. I said it wrong.
Yeah.
We get paid. That is so wrong. Most of us, by the way, tell the clerk to withhold our pay. But if we don't, we get paid while our staffs don't, while the TSA doesn't, while the military, it's just really wrong. So if it were up to me, we would be here, we would be pounding it out, we would find that consensus, we would open up the government and do exactly what the American people expect us to do.
The exact right soundbite that you should have.
I know.
This time, right? Like, he's doing a very nice job of the politics of it. Not that I think he's insincere necessarily. I'm just saying, what is the right thing to say here? Hey, federal government shutdown means federal government shutdown, and if I'm not working, I shouldn't be getting paid.
I
don't know
that though.
I don't know if I'm a 20-something-year-old staffer who's
Right,
made the
exactly.
commitment to move out to D.C. and get an apartment and has
Yeah.
rent to pay, and suddenly I'm not getting paid.
Yeah.
I'd probably say, hey, why don't you take your money and help me cover my
Sure.
rent?
Yeah, that's right.
I can understand that's a little bit more complicated than it may seem for a lot of people. All right, Cami Mondo from Deseret News. She's a Deseret News congressional correspondent. Joins us now to talk a little bit more about this. And Cami, I imagine that out here in Utah, we look at it and say, well, the federal government shut down, and how's it impacting people here in our state, especially where we have a lot of military workers and things
Right.
along those lines. But back in D.C., there are a lot of people who aren't the glamorous members of Congress who are suddenly, dealing with some financial difficulty as well.
Absolutely. Washington, D.C. is even known as a city where a lot of young people come here right out of college. This is a lot of their first jobs. Many of them are even just interns. And so they're up here working, but they're not getting paid. They haven't been paid for over a month now. And that's really starting to cause some concerns to make these monthly payments of, rent or credit card statements. And, a lot of staffers that I've talked to, they live in houses with other congressional staffers. So it's like you have 4 people in one apartment. None of them are getting paid. It's really starting to cause concern about what they're supposed to do to pay their payments.
So Cami, what are they doing?
There's a lot of them who are starting to look at applying for loans, whether it's through the Congressional Federal Credit Union, which is one of the banks that's controlled by the Congress. It kind of operates out of here. I've talked to a lot of them who are trying to apply for those, but as of last week, a lot of them were still waiting around to see if they were going to get approved just because so many people were applying. There was a huge backlog. A lot of them are starting to dip into their savings accounts, their retirement accounts, anything they can do to try to find some money to pay rent and hope that the government opens before the end of this next month.
For me, that just is like, wow. It's such a burden, I think, for 20-somethings. We had a segment earlier in the show where we were talking about Utahns not being able to have savings. Like 3/4 of Utahns don't really have the budget to have savings. So I'm imagining that congressional workers who are in their 20s maybe don't have a lot of savings.
Absolutely, and some of them, still have student loans that they have to pay, but a lot of those payments aren't coming through the federal government because it's shut down, so they're not able to make those loan payments either. So a lot of them are just stressed out was the vibe that I was getting as I was talking to a lot of them. A lot of them are starting to lean on maybe even family members who can give them some money, but it's definitely just a time of confusion. And a lot of them just told me they were frightened of what was going to happen if they can't start making these payments by the end of this month, whether they're going to, cut down on groceries. They just really aren't sure what to do.
The interesting thing here is we talk about how do you get pressure on the House and Senate, in this case mostly the Senate, to go ahead and vote. We're trying to get all this is coming down to we need somewhere between 6 and 8, depending on which part of the story we're talking about, Democrat votes to get this thing done, and everything goes back. Continuing resolution gets taken care of, and things go back to normal, at least for a little bit. You think about the political pressure that has to be on it, but all of these folks have staff, and the staff are people who, they work very closely with. And, you can think of some of them and say, well, that person's heartless and they don't care what their staff thinks. But a lot of them do. They're all human beings who go, hey, my chief of staff's not getting paid. My congressional interns aren't. A lot of these folks here who depend on this money, it's a different type of pressure that I don't think we talk about a lot. That I wonder if you think that can have even a little bit of an impact in getting things restarted at some point.
Right, maybe that could be the pressure point that starts to move things. We've seen over the last month different pressure points, different deadlines come up that we go, this must be the pressure point that gets people to move. So far, nothing has, but, you're absolutely correct that these staffers on the Hill, it's not really a secret that, lawmakers are up here and they do the work, but a lot of that is done by the staffers in the office. They're the ones who are doing all of the, written work, they're doing all of the legislative work, and the lawmakers are kind of there just to help streamline it. And so, you've got to think that these lawmakers really care about their staffers who are helping keep everything running. Maybe that will be the pressure point here.
And it all seems a little theoretical until you start to see it impact someone who's close to you, and then sometimes that's proximity close as much as family close. And so I just wonder if that can start to weigh in on some of these folks.
Cami.
For sure. And you've seen some lawmakers. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you can keep going.
I was going to say, you've seen some lawmakers who have even started, bringing up catered food or trying to help out their staffers in other ways. Last week they had some catering in different days so that a lot of these staffers who are up here and not getting paid at least don't have to worry about buying lunch for the day. But that's just another thing that you're saying about that personal aspect.
I just wanted to ask you, Cami, these are considered essential workers, are they not? So they still have to work, but they can't go find another temp job or something.
Yes, they are considered essential workers, and that was also I had talked to a few of them to ask, whether any of them had been furloughed, and so far they all seem to still be essential, because back in the shutdown of 2019, that's when it was decided that all of these essential workers or furloughed workers would get back pay, and so that's kind of changed how they operate. They're all still working because, lawmakers consider you're going to get paid anyway eventually, that we might as well keep things running in the office. So yes, they all are deemed essential, and they are still working up here.
So one really short question. Is there any indication that the House will actually bring their members back to D.C. anytime soon?
We did ask Speaker Johnson this morning whether, they were considering to come back. They did cancel votes for this whole week, so they are not expected to come in this week. But we are getting closer to that CR, that spending resolution that's being considered. It only goes until November 21st. So at some point, you would think that they would need to come back and pass a longer extension. But so far, the House, Speaker Johnson is saying the Democrats need to reopen the government first before we decide to come back.
Well, thanks so much. That was Cami Mondo for the Deseret News talking with us. And as the government shutdown lingers on, Senator John Curtis has a message for House Speaker Mike Johnson.
Speaker Johnson, I love you. I love what you've done, but it's time to come back to work.
So Marty and I are going to talk about John Curtis's recent comments on C-SPAN after the break. We're coming up on KSLNewsRadio.com and on the app for KSL News Radio, sponsored by At Your Service Pros.
This holiday season, won't you help us by bringing joy to a young child? It begins with the Children's Center Utah's Hope and Healing online fundraiser. Now through Thursday, your donations will support essentials for therapeutic work, including tools, play materials, books, and art supplies, so children can better express emotions and heal. Your contributions will be vital. Local foundations and individuals are matching donations so that every gift will have maximum impact. It's 90 hours of giving to raise $90,000, which will provide 90 children with 4 sessions of family therapy. You can even make your gift in honor or in memory of a loved one or family member. Plus, the giving doesn't end when the 90 hours are over. The Children's Center Utah welcomes donations of winter clothing, diapers, and formula to support basic needs for families who struggle to afford essentials during these holiday months. Visit childrenscenterutah.org. Help a family this holiday season. The Children's Center Utah, where hope and healing happen.
So my mother is thinking of switching from Verizon to Pure Talk, but she's worried the deal sounds too good to be true. Michael, she said, how can those Pure Talk people offer me the same basic service as Verizon for so much less money? I said, Ma, go ask Google how much Verizon spends on advertising and promotions. A few seconds later, my mother said, oh my goodness, $12 billion a year? That must be a typo. I'll tell you what I told my mom. It's not a typo. Verizon spends $12 billion a year on advertising and promotions, and their customers are paying for it. Well, Pure Talk doesn't spend that kind of money on commercials. Trust me, I would know. That's why they can offer you and my mother unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data on a crazy fast 5G network for just $25 a month. And if you're a business owner, you could really save a fortune. Dial pound 250, say the words Mike Rowe, and you'll get an additional 50% off your first month. That's pound 250 Mike Rowe. Pure Talk. Everything you need and nothing you don't.
The Utah Mammoth and Smiths are teaming up to get you to the game with qualifying Smiths purchases. You can score single goal view tickets, hot dog and a bottle of water included for just $15. The catch? These tickets go fast. Download the Utah Mammoth app, enable push notifications, and be the first to know when new tickets are released. Shop at Smiths, then snag your seat for $15. Simple. Grab the Utah Mammoth app today and watch for the next release. Tusks up.
This is the story of the one. As a custodial supervisor at a high school, he knows that during cold and flu season, germs spread fast. It's why he partners with Grainger to stay fully stocked on the products and supplies he needs, from tissues to disinfectants to floor scrubbers. All so that he can help students, staff, and teachers stay healthy and focused. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Workdays can be unpredictable, but your workwear shouldn't be. With the Cintas Apparel Plus program, you'll have freshly laundered garments for everyone on your team delivered every week. Cintas has workwear for just about any job imaginable, with high-performance fabrics and an uncompromising fit that stretches and moves with you. Don't leave looking and feeling good to chance. Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Most of us like to be out in the sun. That's why sunscreen and other safety measures are key to protecting your skin from aging and cancer. The FDA recommends using a sunscreen with a sun protection factor, or SPF, of 15 or higher. Also, look for broad spectrum on the label. That means both harmful ultraviolet A and B rays are blocked. UVA rays age the skin, UVB rays burn, and both cause cancer. But the perfect sunscreen doesn't count if you use it wrong. Don't need sunscreen on a cloudy day? Wrong. 80% of UV rays still get through the haze. Only use sunscreen at the beach? Nope. Anytime you're outside, UV rays attack the skin, so you need protection. And you have to reapply sunscreen every 2 hours. Remember, SPF plus broad spectrum equal healthy fun in the sun. Visit www.fda.gov/sunscreen for more information. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
The new Inside Sources.
Speaker Johnson, I love you. I love what you've done, but it's time to come back to work.
So that was Senator John Curtis on C-SPAN talking about the government shutdown. And I'm joined with Marty Carpenter. He's been guest hosting with me today. Marty, you told me that we have to have a bigger context about that sound clip. Tell me about it.
Well, I just think that it's one of those sound bites when you say, okay, here's a Republican in the Senate.
Right.
Telling the Republican Speaker of the House, hey, it's time to come back to work. As soon as he said it, I wonder if they thought, oh, that's going to be headline, right? Because that's a really easy one to take out of context. And I looked around at some of the headlines, and it was like, Senator Curtis to House Speaker, I love you, but it's time to get back to work. And what are you supposed to infer from that? That suddenly maybe are Republicans breaking ranks, and are they getting a little wobbly kneed about this whole thing? So I read, a couple articles about it, and I said, well, what is the actual quote? It's like he says, this is the strangest shutdown ever. If it were up to me, we would be pounding it out. We would find the consensus. We would open the government and do exactly what the American people expect us to do. So, Speaker Johnson, I love you. I love what you've done, but it's time to get back to work. Not necessarily saying, hey, it's time for us to cave on this or to find a compromise, so much as what he was making the point of, I believe, is people have left D.C. The House isn't here really working. And when you're not here, we can't get that sort of magic that goes on when people are around each other and they start to talk, and suddenly maybe we find some way, even if it's two sides who are very distant, to being able to say, hey, look, we've both backed ourselves into a corner here. Let me help you find a way where you can where you can concede and we can win the point, but I can do it without embarrassing you. Those types of things happen when people are around each other. So I think a lot of people are going to read headlines from that story and not read 10 paragraphs into it to see the quote and go, oh, Jesus, Curtis caving on this, and why is he weakening the stance of the party? Yeah, I don't think that's what he did. I just think that the story probably got accurate, but not necessarily full context, and that happens a lot.
Let me ask you this question, and maybe you don't know the answer, and that's okay because I don't know either. The Senate seems to be back there, and they are doing some things that are maybe not even related to the shutdown, but the House has been told to just stay home. Mm-hmm. Could they be in D.C. working on other things?
I believe so, right? Well, I mean, they're getting paid whether they're accepting the money or not based on our last segment. But I mean, you could say, all right, presuming this gets done, here are the other 5 things that are my priorities, things that my office needs to be working on, and things I want to have in the mix to go, once we get back up and fully operational. Yeah. So. Yeah, but also, those conversations can happen over the phone as well. And so
but
it's
not
effective
the same
when people aren't around each other.
Yeah,
so I don't disagree with the point necessarily, but I can also say, hey, I get where Speaker Johnson's coming from if you're saying this is the point we're trying to win on, and I don't need people here who suddenly are getting soft. Get out of here. Let's handle this negotiation, and let's put the pressure on Senator Schumer to cave so that we can get the government open again.
So Democratic Representative Peters was also on C-SPAN speaking about the Speaker Johnson sending House representatives home. We have that.
And now we're into this shutdown where nothing's happening. And the Speaker of the House has actually sent us all home. He won't let us come to work, even though we're all being paid. And our staffs are all working. By the way, they're working with no pay. I just think that's ridiculous. In the previous shutdowns, we weren't allowed to go home. We had to stay there. They would schedule votes every day, so you had to be there. They would not let you fly home on your government expense. And so we were talking constantly about how to resolve this, and that's what we should be doing now.
That is really interesting. And, Senator Curtis also said that all shutdowns are kind of unique, but this is a unique shutdown.
Yeah. Well, and part of this, to me, this reads a little bit like a news cycle is always, such as it is, not a 24-hour news cycle anymore. It's a 10-second news cycle,
Right.
But it's always going to try to find like the next novel thing. So it tells me to a certain extent, Republicans have done a good job of saying this is a Democrat shutdown, and Senator Schumer's the one holding us up, and he's doing it for personal reasons, his personal political reasons. And so now, like, if you leave a little bit of a vacuum there and you keep saying that over and over, yes, you're applying more pressure, but the media is going to go find like the next thing. And so this is where some people are starting to turn some attention, saying,
interesting.
hey, maybe the House should be here. And so it might be like a really small thing in the grand scheme of things, but if it's small but it's novel, then it suddenly pops up in the news cycle, and then it gets inflated to the point where it seems like a real thing. Whereas, is this really more of kind of like a minor detail? Probably. It doesn't change the crux of the argument.
Yeah, it's still interesting, and it's interesting to hear you say that the Republicans are placing blame on Democrats, which they are, and Democrats are placing blame on Republicans, which they are. But if you look at national polling, more and more people are saying that this is the Republican shutdown, right? They have the House, the Senate, and the presidency, and they're like President Trump is saying, blow up the filibuster and just get it done. And they're like, no, we're not going to do that either. But anyway, so John Curtis, he did say, and this was the soundbite that I got wrong last time, but he said, if we get paid, it's just so wrong.
Scott will agree. This is the strangest shutdown like ever, right? Like it's opposite day in so many ways. And he's right. I mean, I remember sitting in my office day after day after day. That brings motivation, right, to solve this. We get paid. That is so wrong. Most of us, by the way, tell the clerk to withhold our pay. But if we don't, we get paid while our staffs don't, while the TSA doesn't, while the military, like it's just really wrong. So if it were up to me, we would be here. We would be pounding it out. We would find that consensus. We would open up the government and do exactly what the American people expect us to do.
So there is an argument, of course, that is being made that Speaker Johnson is keeping the House away from D.C. because he doesn't want to swear in the new representative from Arizona who was elected more than 40 days ago, and because that would force a release of the Epstein files.
Huh.
Maybe.
Interesting stuff. One thing I think of when you talk about the public generally thinking, well, Republicans control the House and the Senate and the White House, it goes back to a little bit of like a misunderstanding of how procedural votes or how votes work, in that, the Republicans do have the majority in the Senate. They just don't have a large enough majority in the Senate.
They need 60.
If there were 60 Republicans in the Senate, it wouldn't have shut down. It would have been, it would never have become an issue because they would have done it. But they've got to go peel off just enough votes, unless you ask the president, who says, get rid of the filibuster and you could just do this with 51 votes. If anything, that's probably an interesting element of this, is like, the president starting to put a little pressure on to say, let's do that and let's move on. Obviously, that's something that people have tried to avoid doing because it causes larger problems down the road. Republicans won't always have the House, Senate, and the White House, and so you want to make sure that you're playing by the rules that you have now and trying to keep those rules in place for down the road when you may not have the upper hand.
Yeah, it's interesting. So you mentioned the president being more involved maybe, but this is Senator Curtis's response when he was asked specifically if the president does need to be more involved.
What is your message to President Trump? Should he get more engaged here?
Yeah, so yes and no. So the president doesn't have a vote, right? Like we talk all the time about Congress taking back more from the executive branch, and then here we are leaning on the executive branch to solve our problems. So there's a big part of me that wants to say we can do this ourselves, right? Like this is...
And yet so much of what Congress has done has been directed by the president.
Yeah, so this is our chance, right? Okay. Like, let's step up. Representative Peters is exactly right. We don't get out of this unless there's approximately 7 Democrats that are persuaded to vote for us. Why? And I agree with them. Like, listen, I love Mike Johnson. He is to me rock solid, but we need to get Congress back.
So he's not even considering the filibuster. Overriding the filibuster, right? And so far, Republican leadership is saying we don't want to do this, exactly to your point, because they will not always be in control. And once you kind of, I guess, break that norm, then it's going to flip the other way.
Yeah, it's also interesting to me that, we look at some national poll numbers and say, well, nationally people are starting to blame the Republicans in the House or the Republicans in the Senate for this. None of those folks run national elections. So what matters to them is what, they've got to go defend home base. So did their constituencies like
who
what
are they
they're doing
blaming
or not,
yeah.
right? How does that blame line up? And frankly, what's the alternative? The Republicans can't cave on this and go, oh, well, we weren't really all that serious about cutting all this spending and all the stuff that we've done to this point because the Democrats threatened to shut the government down, so we have to cave and put it back in. That's like way bigger political problem for them than it is to just say, I'm sorry, we're not doing that. And to be able to stand on that principle helps them with a lot of their constituents.
Yeah.
You can't say that for every district, but in a lot of them.
Right. And it's, Greg Skordas, who's typically here, says all the time, I think both are to blame. Just knock it off and get the government back open. So, all right, look, are you feeling refreshed after getting an extra hour this weekend?
Refreshed might be pushing it a little bit, but falling back is a lot better than springing forward. I can tell you that.
Oh, so we just changed our clocks again. Millions of Americans are tired of shifting back and forth. But is there any real hope for ending that back and forth? Deseret News opinion editor Jay Evenson will join us and explain why that dream might be stuck on snooze. I'm so sad.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top national story this hour. Just into the newsroom, we're learning that the Trump administration plans to partially fund SNAP. It comes after a pair of judges ruled the administration is required to keep the food aid program running. Some Utah Congress members are refusing paychecks in solidarity with government workers who are not being paid during the shutdown. KSL News Radio's McKenna Rodriguez reports.
Employees of the government who were deemed necessary to work during the shutdown have been required to work without pay or were furloughed since the beginning of the shutdown on October 1st. But several Utah Congress members are still receiving their salaries. Senator John Curtis sent a letter to the Senate financial clerk informing them he will refuse pay and calling it inappropriate for lawmakers to receive their pay under these circumstances.
Other lawmakers refusing pay include Representative Mike Kennedy and Representative Blake Moore. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The California hunter missing for nearly 3 weeks has been found alive. ABC's Sophie Flay has more on the survival story of Ron Daly.
Speaking out from his hospital bed, Daly explaining he got lost after taking a wrong turn and ended up in rough, unfamiliar terrain. He says his truck eventually broke down, leaving him with no choice but to walk and find help. Along the way, he lost his phone and had no way to call for help. But on Saturday, a group of hunters spotted Daly. He says he hadn't eaten in almost a week. His family overwhelmed with relief, calling his survival nothing short of a miracle.
Daly's family says if everything goes as planned, he should be released from the hospital today. Your money at this moment, the Dow down 200 points. It's almost 0.5% to 47,355. Coming up, extra warm for November. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:31.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Hi, I'm John Ray, your friend and jeweler at Shane Company. When you buy an engagement ring or fine jewelry gift from Shane Company, you get more than what you paid for. Our jewelry comes with our all-inclusive free lifetime warranty. It covers everything. There's no fine print. You'll get unlimited cleanings, resizings, and repairs. Plus, it even protects your engagement ring's center stone. We stand behind the quality of our jewelry, and that's our gift to you this holiday. Peace of mind. Because a friend knows the best things in life are free. Shane Company, your friend and jeweler.
You do countless things without a second thought to protect your family and home. Every time you're in the car, you buckle your seatbelt. Before the next load of laundry, you remove the dryer lint. When you head out, you always lock your doors. And one simple task, done far less often, can protect your family and home this winter. Schedule a furnace inspection by a certified heating contractor to check for safety and efficiency. A friendly reminder from Enbridge Gas.
Keeping your engines healthy means protecting them in season and out. Experts trust Stable to do that. And third-party testing confirms it. Stable is the industry leader in preventing fuel-related issues, no matter if you use it in your car, boat, or outdoor power equipment. In season or out, at every fill-up or when you store, start with Stable.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. Ever wonder why Big Wireless wants you on an unlimited plan? They probably want you to cover the cost of those 20-somethings using all that data every month. But most people 50 and up like me only use 12 gigs or less. Don't get bamboozled by Big Wireless. Switch to Consumer Cellular. Our plans start at just $20, and we use the same towers as the big guys. Join the millions who choose something better, because if you're not using all that data, you're probably getting used.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have Leaf Filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/radio to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
To get this special radio offer, go to leaffilter.com/radio for your free gutter inspection today and get up to 30% off. That's leaffilter.com/radio for up to 30% off. leaffilter.com/radio. See representative for warranty details.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America. Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape. Here's Heather Kelly.
Well, we do have some issues on Bangerter Highway. The first thing you'll encounter is if you exit I-15 and head west toward Redwood Road, there is a disabled vehicle blocking the left lane and shoulder. And then from there, the road curves to head northbound on Bangerter Highway. And if you make it all the way to 5400 South in Taylorsville, there's still a crash in the cleanup stages blocking the right lane and shoulder. But none of that is causing delays because we don't have a lot of traffic right now on the roadways. I-15 is free and clear. All the crashes have cleared and traffic is at speed throughout Utah, Salt Lake, and Davis counties in both directions. Join the KSL Real Estate Show at a special time this Saturday, 6 a.m. before BYU pregame show. The latest on Wasatch Front Real Estate this Saturday morning from 6 to 7. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, we should reach 69 degrees today in Salt Lake City, which is just 2 degrees short of the all-time record for this day. 69 again Tuesday, 71 on Wednesday. Right now it's 49 degrees and partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
And it's Marty Carpenter sitting in today for Greg Skordas alongside Dr. Holly Richardson. Dr. Holly on the Hill Richardson, the editor of Utah Policy. Okay, so my alarm is standardly set for 6 a.m. That's what time my day starts so that I can walk the dog and go to the gym and get into the process of the morning.
Yep.
Today, my clock said 5 o'clock when I woke up without an alarm. I guess that means I've got my body pretty well attuned into 6 a.m., and now I just need to make this adjustment. I got to say this. Generally, I dislike that twice a year we have the same discussion that people complain about springing forward or falling back. Because in my younger days, I didn't notice it very much. I guess I would with kids a little bit, but it just never really bothered me. But boy, today I was up at 5 a.m. and thought, well, I guess this is the time the day is going to start today.
I was up at 3:30 instead of 4:30, and that was slightly annoying.
Oh, see, it got a one-up me, just like I set that up.
No, but it's just because you set your body clock in some ways.
Yeah.
So, look, we had a conversation last week about changing to a standard time again, and how it can be hard on pets because they don't watch the clock. It can be hard on people who are struggling with dementia because it's confusing and sudden, and I'm minorly annoyed right? But we have this conversation, as you said, all the time. And even in Utah, we've passed a law that says as soon as Congress can get their act together, we're going to stay on daylight saving time the rest of the year. Like, we're not going to change off of it. But Jay Evenson, the opinion editor of the Deseret News, tells us that is really probably a pipe dream.
Maybe I'm just getting old and I'm too cynical, but this is the one story you can predict twice a year. You can get ready for it because people are going to be upset.
You can set your clocks by it.
I see what you did there. But that for about 2 or 3 days it's going to be something everybody complains about, and then we forget about it. But I honestly thought we were going to get to a place where we would get some change. And my hopes were picked up because President Trump sent out a social media post in all caps where he talked about how costly changing the clock is and how he wants that changed. And Congress, the Senate was taking it up again. The Senate already a couple of years ago passed by unanimous consent a bill that would allow states to do standard time year-round, but it never got taken up by the House. Well, this year, Senator Tom Cotton from Arkansas made sure it never even got past the Senate. And he said that if we pass it, winter will be a dark and dismal time for many Americans. I thought that was the very definition of winter.
Is it not? Yeah.
It was a dark.
Oh, thank goodness. Congress saved us from a dark and miserable winter. That's wonderful.
Yeah, gosh. Jay, can you tell our listeners how we even got to daylight saving time and standard time?
Well, it really goes back to World War I, and there was a concern there about saving energy for our military forces. And so the idea was if you make it lighter in the evening, we don't use as much energy. And back then it was coal and other ways of lighting our houses. Electricity was coming along. And then we entered this weird sort of period where every city and town kind of had its own time. And it was really hard on the railroads, because you couldn't put a timetable together because Cincinnati would have a different time than Cleveland, and it just didn't make any sense. So they came up with the current system, Pacific, Mountain, Central, and Eastern. And it's kind of changed and evolved a lot since then. We used to have a much longer standard time than we have currently. But the federal government will allow states to stay on daylight saving or on standard time year-round if they wish, and Arizona and Hawaii both do that. But you may not be on daylight saving time, and a lot of people really want to be on daylight saving time year-round. They always run into the crowd that says, "No, we don't want our children to walk to school in the dark in the winter." I actually looked it up, and we experimented in this country in 1974 with year-round daylight saving time. Part of the problem with that was that they imposed it in January, which was probably the worst time that you could have done that. But people really hated it, and this was a 2-year experiment because of the energy crisis in 1974. And I quoted from the Dayton Daily News where they took phone calls from people who were just 4 out of 5 callers just absolutely passionately opposed to it. And the 2-year experiment lasted about 10 months. And a lot of people blame Nixon for it. Of course, he had a lot of other problems beside daylight saving time. And so then we went back to kind of what we have today, where we go on daylight saving time for a while in the winter and I'm sorry, I get that mixed up. Standard time in the winter and daylight saving time in the summer.
It's really incredible to think about how the problem seems to be the change.
Yeah.
Right. If we just picked one and stuck with it, you'd go,
Right.
all right, well, it's not a thing, right? You don't think about it in July and go,
Right.
oh, well, I can't believe the time is like this. Well, you just kind of get used to it. It's the fact that you have to sort of shift without pushing in the clutch twice a year and go, wow, that really grinds my gears a little bit.
I have a novel idea. We need to make this fun. So, we change the clocks at 2 o'clock in the morning. Nobody's awake at that time.
Do it at 4 o'clock.
Let's do 8 a.m. If it changed at 8 a.m. today and all of a sudden, hey, I've got another hour before I have to go to work.
I've got a different proposal. Pick quitting time.
Yeah.
And then suddenly
Suddenly
jump into
it's the
you're
weekend.
off work. You're off work a half an hour.
That
or
would
an
be
hour
in the
earlier.
spring. Why not make it fun? If we're going to do this, why do it at 2 in the morning and hope that your smartphone catches up and you don't become late for work.
Yeah, it'd be like at some point Friday at 4 o'clock automatically becomes Friday at 5, and you're like, well,
okay, we're done.
Guess what I like all of a sudden? A little bit of this daylight saving time. Yeah, give me more of this.
Right.
Let's do this each week.
Greg Skordas has a proposal to move it by a half an hour and then just stay on that.
Yeah, that would be
so
great.
So shift us 30 minutes.
So we'd be a half hour off of our major trading partners in Europe and the rest of the world.
Or we could be like China and just have one time zone for the whole country, which would be problematic in and of itself.
Another thought, yes.
So why do you think this will never change besides Tom Cotton?
Because we always run into this, you have the daylight saving people who like to have more light in the evenings, and you have the standard people who don't want to have darkness in the mornings. You can never really resolve that problem. Nobody's going to be entirely happy, and we've been arguing about it for so long. I don't see it ever changing. And like I said, people get upset for 2 or 3 days and then they forget about it. No one wins or loses elections over how they voted on daylight saving.
It is interesting, though, if one of the driving forces of the opposition to the clock change is, well, I don't want my kids to walk to school in the dark, which I totally get, because I kind of thought I was like of the last generation that walked to school. I can tell you, judging by drop off at the school in the morning, not a lot of kids walking to school in my neighborhood anymore. So I wonder if over time people go, or here's a proposal: school doesn't have to start so stinking early in the morning for all these kids. Let them wake up a little bit.
I like that proposal, actually. Okay, so thanks for joining us, Jay. We'll have this conversation again in March.
Absolutely. I look forward to it.
So Jay Evenson, opinion editor for the Deseret News. So look, this is an international story. So in the UK, the Andrew, formerly known as Prince, has been stripped of all his royal trappings because of his connections with Jeffrey Epstein and underage victims. That's coming up next. We're streaming live at KSLNewsRadio.com and on the app for KSL News Radio, sponsored by At Your Service Pros.
When it comes to your electrical system, do you know the warning signs to look for? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and it's okay if you don't know, but here are a few things that you might not even realize could be a sign of a bigger problem. Wall plates that are hot to the touch, discoloration around switches or outlets, if you hear crackling or popping or buzzing around switches or outlets, a breaker that trips a lot, switches that feel loose when you operate them, if your lights dim or flicker when a major appliance comes on, if your plugs fall out of the wall easily. You know, you're not supposed to have to bend the prongs out on a plug just to get it to stay in the wall. If you notice any of these things, you should consider having a licensed electrician check your system out. If you don't know anyone, Any Hour Services has put together a radio-only special for any homeowners listening. One of our licensed electricians will perform a comprehensive electrical inspection and give you a full written report for only $29. But you have to mention this ad when you call. To schedule your comprehensive electrical inspection by a licensed electrician for only $29, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7300. That's 801-443-7300. Any Hour Services.
More than 50 million Americans suffer from a form of mental illness.
And Utah isn't immune, with nearly 1 in 3 people dealing with anxiety, depression, or another form of mental illness.
But there's hope. We can all take action to keep ourselves and our loved ones safe.
That's why KSL has teamed with the Huntsman Mental Health Foundation to bring you hope and help you thrive.
It's Healthy Mind Matters.
Find out more at healthymindmatters.com.
You've got your whole life ahead of you, so choose a Medicare plan you can count on. And that's what you get with a Medicare Advantage plan from United Healthcare. With more than 45 years' experience serving its members, United Healthcare has plans with low monthly premiums that fit your life today and as your needs change tomorrow. The Medicare annual enrollment period ends December 7th, so go to uhc.com/Medicare today. United Healthcare Medicare plans. It's Medicare coverage Utah can count on.
Friday, join KSL News Radio and NPS from 10 to 1 as the movie show stops by. Then browse and uncover what makes NPS so great. With 4 locations, NPS takes in new inventory every day. Then they check all competitors' retail pricing before marking items down 20 to 70% off. So you're invited to visit the movie show Friday 10 to 1. And that's the first step to discovering NPS. Visit npsstore.com to begin your own NPS adventure. npsstore.com.
So my mother is thinking of switching from Verizon to Pure Talk, but she's worried the deal sounds too good to be true. Michael, she said, how can those Pure Talk people offer me the same basic service as Verizon for so much less money? I said, Ma, go ask Google how much Verizon spends on advertising and promotions. A few seconds later, my mother said, oh my goodness, $12 billion a year? That must be a typo. I'll tell you what I told my mom. It's not a typo. Verizon spends $12 billion a year on advertising and promotions, and their customers are paying for it. Well, Pure Talk doesn't spend that kind of money on commercials. Trust me, I would know. That's why they can offer you and my mother unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data on a crazy fast 5G network for just $25 a month. And if you're a business owner, you could really save a fortune. Dial pound 250, say the words Mike Rowe, and you'll get an additional 50% off your first month. That's pound 250 Mike Rowe. Pure Talk. Everything you need and nothing you don't.
This holiday season, won't you help us by bringing joy to a young child? It begins with the Children's Center Utah's Hope and Healing online fundraiser. Now through Thursday, your donations will support essentials for therapeutic work, including tools, play materials, books, and art supplies, so children can better express emotions and heal. Your contributions will be vital. Local foundations and individuals are matching donations so that every gift will have maximum impact. It's 90 hours of giving to raise $90,000, which will provide 90 children with 4 sessions of family therapy. You can even make your gift in honor or in memory of a loved one or family member. Plus, the giving doesn't end when the 90 hours are over. The Children's Center Utah welcomes donations of winter clothing, diapers, and formula to support basic needs for families who struggle to afford essentials during these holiday months. Visit childrenscenterutah.org. Help a family this holiday season. The Children's Center Utah, where hope and healing happen.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for about 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop texts, stopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Inside Sources.
So, King Charles, across the pond, has stripped Andrew of his royal titles. So, Marty Carpenter is joining me today. Marty, what is his new name going to be?
Well, I was thinking you'd have to really work hard to make it sound more pretentious than being called Prince Andrew or His Royal Highness, whatever it would be. Because now it's Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Is that right? Do I have that right? Mountbatten Windsor.
Yeah, that's right. He had to get a last name,
which sounds super pretentious, doesn't it? Like, hey, we want it to still sound extremely British and very posh and upper class, royal, if you will. Mountbatten Windsor.
Yeah, so he's the younger brother of King Charles. He was stripped of his titles as well as his home where he was living in a continuing effort by the king to punish his brother for his connections to sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. So in 2016, he was named in a civil lawsuit brought by Virginia Giuffre, who alleged that Epstein paid her to have sex with the former prince on several occasions. So he's denied the claims, but he settled the case out of court in 2022 for an undisclosed sum. But this is a story that just doesn't die. So the family of Virginia Giuffre reacted to the news that his titles have been stripped. And here's ABC's chief investigative correspondent, Aaron Katursky.
24 hours after King Charles stripped his brother Andrew of all his royal titles, Andrew will soon have to move from his 30-bedroom mansion to Sandringham, the king's private estate north of London. Ex-wife Sarah Ferguson will no longer live with him. For years, Giuffre claimed Jeffrey Epstein trafficked her for sex with Andrew when she was a teenager. Andrew has long denied it, but Giuffre's family says the king's historic decision is vindication.
I think one of the things with this story, right, is that Andrew, there are multiple pictures of him with Virginia, right? And in so she has this memoir that was published just a week or two ago, but she actually died by suicide earlier this year. She just couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about what we just heard about what the consequences are, like losing your titles. One thing, I don't think he was like a working royal before that. So
that's right. He stepped back from that several years ago.
So he's not really working, but he has the titles. So you take the titles away. That's one thing. Sounds like he gets to move from one gigantic house into another gigantic house. And now doesn't have to live with his ex-wife. So, I'm starting to struggle with how is this punishment? But I guess I can sort of see it.
So the ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, my husband actually brought that up over the weekend because I was like. He was like, it's a big home, but it's 30 rooms. I'm like, I think it's 30 bedrooms, and it's 30 bedrooms, right?
Bedrooms,
so you don't even have to see each other to be in the same location, right?
But I feel like if you really wanted to punish your little brother, you'd say, yeah, keep living with your ex-wife. It feels like letting him off the hook a little bit.
Oh, man, I don't know. He had to give up his military positions. He had something called, I'm looking at a CBS News story. He was an honorary vice admiral, and the defense secretary over in the UK said, we've got a process underway for that to be removed. So he's been dethroned, even though he wasn't really on the throne.
Yeah, I don't know. This feels like, I guess at the same time, the right thing for the king to do.
Yeah.
But also a whole lot of much ado about nothing. In that, like, whatever, he's still totally wealthy, he's totally rich, he totally gets to go live this like super privileged life, and unless he goes to jail eventually,
he could, and he did an interview in 2019 with the BBC, and things, again, this is a story that isn't dying, but he defended his ties with Jeffrey Epstein, right? And so it just kind of has been going downhill for him. But you're right. He has lost his titles. He's lost his 30-bedroom home. He had been in the Royal Navy, and I don't know if you remember this, but he was a helicopter pilot during the Falklands War, and that was, I'm old enough to remember when that was unfolding.
And I've read about it.
Right, exactly. So when President Trump was asked about it on Air Force One on Sunday, he said, well, that's a terrible thing that's happened to the family.
Yeah. It's
and he's not talking about Virginia Giuffre's family, by the way. Let's be clear.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Like, he's essentially been convicted in the court of public opinion. And so, then the king, as the head of the royal family, makes some moves to, mostly I certainly think you could argue are like public relations moves to say, hey, we've got to do this. We're protecting the institution. If that means you get cut out, that's fine. And again, it's not like he's going to be living on the street or destitute. But, for a guy who grew up with what we can only say is the top 1% of the top 1% of the top 1% of all privileged lives,
yeah.
I'm sure it's a change for him.
Yeah.
But, look, if he on one hand, he definitely has to deal with being convicted in the court of public opinion, and people think about him very differently than they did previous to all of these incidences. But on the other hand, like, it doesn't really impact probably his actual day-to-day life, other than the fact
probably
that
doesn't.
He's accustomed to a certain level of treatment, and now people look at him as like, well, I just presume that you did this really awful thing.
Well, look, I think he has probably done a lot of damage to himself by defending Jeffrey Epstein, by paying Virginia Giuffre, and she has lots of details. Like, she came with receipts, man. But in the U.S., the Epstein files have been a big deal, and pretty sure that his name is in there and all over, and maybe some additional details that haven't been made public yet. But Democrats are asking for him to come testify in front of Congress. I don't know how that'll play, right, since he's not a U.S. citizen. But it's interesting that this conversation, like, there are Republican members of the in the House that are saying, look, we want these files released. Marjorie Taylor Greene is one of them, and she's like, absolutely, Republicans campaigned on this, full transparency, you got to release this. Thomas Massie is one of them also, and just saying, you've got to release these files. And then, of course, we've got the final person to put their signature on to get 218 to force the vote on releasing the files. She's the one that can't be sworn in. It was not being sworn in because the House isn't doing any work.
Well, at some point, that could happen then. I mean, it seems like
I think it will. I think it will happen. I think it's inevitable because once Congress comes back, or once the House comes back into session, that's the first order of business. He has to swear in.
Yeah, it's one of those sad commentaries on us as a country where we're supposed to be this land of the free and we're entitled to this and the law's the same for everybody. But this one I think feels, on one hand, a little bit like, oh, do I need to know all these salacious details? But I don't care about that so much as like, hey,
there's special rules
the
for
rules
rich and
should
famous.
apply to people whether you're rich, famous, a highly powerful elected official or not. And as a country, I think we're all big enough that we can handle it.
So we have a texter who knows more than we do who says Andrew will need to pay his way now, especially for his home. He was paying like €1 or whatever it was before. So yeah, it's a conversation, and from this side of the pond, I think the royal family is interesting. I mostly stopped following when Princess Diana died, right? Because I used to be like, oh my gosh, it's like a modern day fairy tale. And then it was not a fairy tale, right? And then when she died in the car crash in Paris, and I think it was it's been a while now, actually, like 25 years ago, something like that. But anyway.
It was like 99, 98, somewhere in there.
Something like that. Yeah. And then right after that, Mother Teresa died, like in the shadow of Diana dying and the whole world knowing about that. Then Mother Teresa also exited this planet. So interesting happening over there. There was a push to have Prince Charles say, we're stripping everything, because they had already removed him from royal roles, but he still had the title. Now he doesn't have the title anymore.
Princess Diana died August 31st, 1997.
Okay, there you go.
If it's on the internet, it must be true, right?
Oh, that is true. That date is easy to find.
That one they can get. Yeah, it's. I guess the next season of The Crown is going to be just amazing. Can't wait.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, that's so fun. Okay, so we are learning that the Trump administration is now planning to partially fund SNAP because a pair of judges ruled that the administration is required to keep the food aid program running. We'll have more details, although they're a little sparse, when we come back after the break. Stay with us on KSL News Radio. You can stream us on the app sponsored by At Your Service Pros.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. The Trump administration says it will partially fund SNAP this month.
In a filing entered just before Judge John McConnell's noontime deadline, the Trump administration said it would begin using a contingency fund to pay out partial SNAP benefits. Officials now say that fund has only about $4.5 billion left in it, enough to pay just half of November's need. The USDA, which administers SNAP, says it will immediately begin advising states about the reduced payout, but an agency official warns the court that adjusting the state's systems to account for it could take weeks, if not months.
ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy there. We're now just one day from Election Day for Utah's mayoral, city council, and other local elections. If you haven't already sent your mail-in ballot in the mail, don't. There's a new law requiring county clerks to have all ballots in hand by 8 o'clock on election night. Salt Lake County Clerk Laney Chapman says at this point, take your ballot to a drop box to make sure your voice is heard.
The mayors, our city council people, are directly representative of us. And the best way to make sure that that happens is by participating in these elections.
You can also vote in person through 8 o'clock tomorrow night. Your money at this moment, the Dow is down 204 points. The S&P is up 19 points. And coming up, highs near the 70s. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
This message comes from Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort. Journey through the heart of Europe on an elegant Viking longship with thoughtful service, destination-focused dining, and cultural enrichment on board and on shore. With small ships that bring travelers closer to the destination, there's more time to explore. And every Viking voyage is all-inclusive, with no children and no casinos. Discover more at Viking.com. This message comes from Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort. Journey through the heart of Europe on an elegant Viking longship with thoughtful service, destination-focused dining, and cultural enrichment on board and on shore. With small ships that bring travelers closer to the destination, there's more time to explore. And every Viking voyage is all-inclusive, with no children and no casinos. Discover more at Viking.com.
You've got your whole life ahead of you, so choose a Medicare plan you can count on. And that's what you get with a Medicare Advantage plan from United Healthcare. With more than 45 years' experience serving its members, United Healthcare has plans with low monthly premiums that fit your life today and as your needs change tomorrow. The Medicare annual enrollment period ends December 7th, so go to uhc.com/Medicare today. United Healthcare Medicare plans. It's Medicare coverage Utah can count on.
It all comes down to this, folks.
Yep, the entire season is on the line. But my throat has officially thrown in the towel.
Sounds like you need Vicks VapoCool drops. They're max strength and vaporize sore throat pain.
Whoa! These VapoCool drops hit fast.
Speaking of fast, did you just see that play?
Yeah, he vaporized that ball.
That pun should have come with a penalty.
Vaporize sore throat pain with Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed.
JTV, Jewelry Television. With 80,000 jewelry looks, we're kind of a big deal. Even bigger with new lines of designer handbags, fragrances, and more. And biggest of all, because you could win a 7-night stay in Bali, spending money, and thousands worth of JTV jewelry, making you kind of a big deal. Enter by December 7th at jtv.com/sweepstakes. No purchase necessary. Then watch JTV on TV or shop jtv.com for big holiday deals.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America. Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape. Here's Heather Kelly.
We are accident-free right now all across the Wasatch Front and no delays on the major freeways. That includes I-15 throughout Utah, Salt Lake, Davis, and Weber counties, both northbound and southbound. No issues if you make your way around the Salt Lake Valley on the east and west side belt routes and the 201 freeway. And whether you're leaving the Salt Lake Valley on I-80 through Parley's Canyon or heading out toward Tooele County, those freeways look good as well. The Garden Restaurant in downtown Salt Lake, dine in or order out. The Garden is open weekdays 11 to 3. Hearty, healthy, and so craveable. Fresh flavors, iconic location, The Garden Restaurant. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
A high of 69 today, and tomorrow the skies will be a bit hazy until a breeze moves in on Wednesday. After that, highs near the 60s. Right now, 52 and partly cloudy. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
So we're learning that the Trump administration's now planning to partially fund SNAP after a pair of judges ruled that the administration is required to keep the food aid running. So what does this mean? We don't really know yet. So this just happened at, about an hour ago. So President Trump has been ordered by a judge in Rhode Island to use contingency funds to continue SNAP benefits. The judge says he had until midday today to make his funding decision. ABC's Stephen Portnoy gave us a little background on Utah's morning news this morning.
The bottom line is the judge says that SNAP is an entitlement and that failure to pay it out amounts to an irreparable harm for tens of millions of people in the country. Now, the administration has viewed this in this way. Look, we're in the middle of a shutdown. There is no money on the table for any program. And even though, yes, Congress had in the past authorized about $5 to $6 billion in contingency funds, we can no longer access that money because the program has been suspended because we're in the shutdown. Well, that's a difference from what the administration initially said prior to the shutdown and in its earliest days, in which it put in writing that it would rely on this contingency fund to provide benefits.
So it's the contingency fund is about $5 billion, and the monthly outgoing funds, I guess, from the federal government to the SNAP program is typically $8 billion. So what they're expecting is about half of the payments that SNAP recipients get. That's what they would get for the month of November. There's no plan for December at this point.
Right, because that emergency fund is like essentially a 1 month reserve that says we can go do this, which, does carry you pretty much into early December at this point. So,
although the question is, how is this going to work? And nobody knows. That's the question. Nobody knows.
Once again, the answer is the best thing to do is reopen the federal government and get things running the way they're supposed to run again. Yeah. But in lieu of that, at least you're getting some relief. And you're seeing, I think you're seeing, at least here in Utah, people being fairly generous, donating to the food pantry. And we've got some of that going on in coordination with Election Day and people potentially going to the polls or at least to drop off their ballots. You have from the state side, they've essentially spent some money to help cover a little bit of this.
Up to $4 million for food banks.
Which is not the full thing or anything there. But now if you get a little relief from the federal side, if anything, it's kind of a recognition that there are people who need help, and if there's a way that we can do this, let's find a way to take care of them and not use people as leverage.
Yes, and I think that's one of the big issues, right? Is using people as leverage. So, look, one of the unknowns is how long will it take from saying, okay, we will use these contingency funds for people who receive these benefits to actually see the money show up on their cards. And the answer is they really don't know, that it could take up to 2 weeks plus to be able to get that to get to the people who actually need it. So their funds were cut off November 1st, which was Saturday, and it may be till the middle of November before they actually see half of their benefits restored.
Which is better than the situation you were in before, if you're in that situation.
Half is better than zero.
Yes, but it goes to it goes to point out the fact that while we talk about a government shutdown and a government reopening, it's not always just as easy as flipping on the light switch and flipping it off. Some things take a little while to get going again.
Yeah, that's right. And, you said something to me during the break, which is worth a longer conversation probably than we have today. But I think one of the questions that a lot of people have is, why are 1 in 8 Americans receiving food assistance? And I think that why is the United States of America, why do we have so many poor people in our nation, right, that need that help? And we know that a lot of SNAP recipients actually do work, but they're considered the working poor. I know that when I volunteered with the local food pantry in my area, that is mostly who we saw. It was people who were the working poor, who had jobs, but they either had an unexpected expense or they had high housing costs or whatever it was, and they needed help with food.
Yeah, and this has been a lot of the discussion, even going back to some of the work that was being done with Doge, if you remember that. It feels like ages ago, but it wasn't that many months ago. That when it comes to welfare programs, it's there in any program there's going to exist some waste and some fraud, and you want to eliminate as much of that as you can to make sure that the people who are supposed to receive the help from the program do receive it. And I think that you can actually be very compassionate, and you can also be very diligent in rooting out waste and fraud at the same time. If you understand that our efforts here are not to punish people who are poor, it's to make sure that the funds that we have allocated for this go to the people who actually need it, and it's not going to people who are saying, hey, look at this, I'm getting the food, but I'm also spending that allows me to spend my money on this, this, and this that are less than necessities.
Right.
And it probably drives from you want people to have sort of an inherent sense of, I want to do pretty much anything I can to avoid being on the public dole. And if I have to go on, I want to be on for as short amount of time as possible. That's how we hope it works for everybody.
Yeah.
But I think no one's naive enough to think that that's how it works across the board for everyone.
Right. And, some of the numbers that I've seen show that the waste, fraud, and abuse that are within the SNAP program runs somewhere around 1% to 3%, which it still exists, but it's the lowest of any of the federal programs that they've looked at. So there's that, right? So there's a little bit of good news. We've got some judges saying, no, you're going to use these contingency funds. But at the same time, so President Trump went on 60 Minutes over the weekend, and they recorded, it wasn't a live show, right? So I think some of the things I read is that he was on there. They ended up using 30% or something, because he can be a talker. But one of the things that he said on there is he's not going to be extorted by Democrats to reopen the government, and said he has no plans to negotiate as the government shutdown is now in its 6th week. So that's one of the issues, right? Is he's like, I'm not coming to the table.
Yeah.
And to John Curtis's point, Senator Curtis, he's like, he doesn't really actually have a vote. We're the ones who have the vote. So we were talking about how this impacts people here in the state of Utah, and we had a conversation, remember, about Shane Stewart. He talked to us. He's a certified financial planner, and we asked him to share advice for those worried about the government shutdown. And his number one piece of advice was, don't panic.
One is to not panic. Panic isn't probably necessary, at least yet right now. I know it's a little unnerving to learn that you're not getting the source of income that you're used to, but you likely will get it. It's just going to be delayed. However, in the meantime, be resourceful. Reach out to state and local and even charitable organizations to see if they can help you bridge the gap. Many of these are already aware that SNAP benefits are delayed, and so they're already reaching out. State agencies and even charitable organizations are reaching out, and so go find them and see what you can do to get that stream of income temporarily covered.
And he says there's a light at the end of the tunnel. The shutdown simply won't go on forever, although it might feel like that right now.
Yeah. These SNAP benefits being delayed should be a temporary issue, and the reason being is because those that make decisions also understand this is not only a human issue, it's also an economic issue. If we go more than a couple of months of delayed SNAP benefits, it starts to impact the economy because those benefits turn into the grocery stores and the people who provide the food and those kind of things. It'll start to impact the economy, and we really can't afford that as a nation either. And so they're going to have to come up with a solution, an agreement, start making it less political and more human.
The less political part, right? I don't know about that.
That seems like a high bar to clear at this point.
It does. So he was right, though. There are a lot of ways, especially in Utah, and I think it's one of the things that Utah does so well, right, is we step up when our friends and neighbors have need. So we talked, we've already mentioned a couple of times, we'll talk about it more. Food donation barrels are going to be at least 4 different polling locations across Utah County during Election Day tomorrow. We're going to tell you how a simple stop at the ballot box could help feed a neighbor in need, and also what you can do more generally on Election Day and other days as well to help our neighbors. Stay with us.
This holiday season, won't you help us by bringing joy to a young child? It begins with the Children's Center Utah's Hope and Healing online fundraiser. Now through Thursday, your donations will support essentials for therapeutic work, including tools, play materials, books, and art supplies, so children can better express emotions and heal. Your contributions will be vital. Local foundations and individuals are matching donations so that every gift will have maximum impact. It's 90 hours of giving to raise $90,000, which will provide 90 children with 4 sessions of family therapy. You can even make your gift in honor or in memory of a loved one or family member. Plus, the giving doesn't end when the 90 hours are over. The Children's Center Utah welcomes donations of winter clothing, diapers, and formula to support basic needs for families who struggle to afford essentials during these holiday months. Visit childrenscenterutah.org. Help a family this holiday season. The Children's Center Utah, where hope and healing happen.
At Common Spirit Health, we know that lifelong health and well-being starts with primary care. So we have doctors and providers who see you, hear you, know you, and understand you. Because understanding you means understanding your needs. And that leads to a deeper knowledge of the prevention, wellness, and treatment options that may be best for you. It's primary care that treats your whole family like family. It's primary care with human kindness. Discover all the ways you can find and connect with a primary care provider at mountain.commonspirit.org.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have Leaf Filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/radio to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
To get this special radio offer, go to leaffilter.com/radio for your free gutter inspection today and get up to 30% off. That's leaffilter.com/radio for up to 30% off. leaffilter.com/radio. See representative for warranty details.
It all comes down to this, folks.
Yep, the entire season is on the line. But my throat has officially thrown in the towel.
Sounds like you need Vicks VapoCool drops. They're max strength and vaporize sore throat pain.
Whoa! These VapoCool drops hit fast!
Speaking of fast, did you just see that play?
Yeah, he vaporized that ball.
That pun should have come with a penalty.
Vaporize sore throat pain with Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed.
JTV, Jewelry Television. With 80,000 jewelry looks, we're kind of a big deal. Even bigger with new lines of designer handbags, fragrances, and more. And biggest of all, because you could win a 7-night stay in Bali, spending money, and thousands worth of JTV jewelry, making you kind of a big deal. Enter by December 7th at jtv.com/sweepstakes. No purchase necessary. Then watch JTV on TV or shop jtv.com for big holiday deals.
Pacific Corp is hosting a virtual public open house meeting to discuss a proposed 45-mile transmission line in southern Utah Valley that will span from Spanish Fork to Eagle Mountain. The meeting will take place on November 10th from 6 to 7 p.m. on Zoom. The proposed transmission line will improve system reliability for customers, meeting increasing electrical demand in the region, and connect additional energy resources. Get details and learn more at pacificorp.com/Spanish Fork.
When it comes to vaping, the truth can get clouded. So let's make it clear. Vaping is not safe for kids, teens, or young adults. It's just not.
Because vaping can put microscopic particles into your lungs.
And dangerous things like metals and volatile organic compounds into your body.
And nicotine, the same highly addictive substance found in regular cigarettes.
Nicotine can harm a person's brain development through their mid-20s.
Affecting learning, memory, attention, and impulse control, and priming the brain for other addictions.
Vaping products also come in kid-friendly flavors that can make them appealing to youth.
And many kids also use other drugs, like marijuana, in vaping devices.
With appealing flavors, high nicotine levels, and lots of promotion on social media,
many kids think vaping is harmless, but it's not.
So talk to your kids about the risks of vaping, because when you talk, they hear you.
For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
And expanded Inside Sources.
Okay. There we go. Tomorrow's election's not just about casting votes, which it is about. Please do that. But it's also a chance to give back. So there are 4 different food drives that we know of being held this Tuesday, corresponding with polling locations in American Fork, Pleasant Grove, Provo, and Vineyard. But I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe some pop-up donations, right?
Yeah. I mean, you think that there's one thing that's on the public consciousness right now. It's like, hey, we need to help some people out.
Yeah.
And if I'm going somewhere to drop off a ballot and there's somewhere I can go drop off.
Yeah, if there's a big bin right there,
whatever,
yeah. I would.
If you make it easy,
yeah,
I think you'll
absolutely
make it much more successful of a food drive. So this seems to be like a nice thing to do where, hey, if you haven't mailed in your ballot yet, you got to go drop it off somewhere. Grab some stuff out of the pantry that you can spare and
That's right.
do that.
On Friday, which was Halloween, we had a couple of houses they're very popular in their neighborhoods and people go to see them, and they were collecting food for the Utah Food Bank as well, right?
Yeah.
So we know that that's happening out there. According to Jessica,
I can certainly send the food bank some Snickers bars right
Oh,
now.
please do that. They need that, right? Yeah. They need that. I remember when I was volunteering down at Tabitha's Way, one of the things they were looking for were they called them birthday kits. So that as families came through, if they had somebody with a birthday in their family that month, they could get a little bag that had I think it had a couple of balloons and a cake mix and a frosting mix thing and some candles, right? Because you think those are some of the things that are maybe not necessities, but are ones that can really make a difference in somebody's life.
Yeah, it's important to think about not just like the most essential thing, but sort of beyond.
So if you have to make a choice, you're going to go for the most essential, right? But birthday cakes can be a really nice thing.
Yeah, and it also is helpful just in the sense that, sometimes you don't get to see the need, whether there may be people in your neighborhood who don't tell you about the need.
That's exactly right.
And you might be in a neighborhood where you think, oh, everyone here's doing fine and I'd love to help somehow, but I don't have those people in my circle who I know need help. So this is a way to go do it.
It's, according to Jessica Miller, she's the Chief Impact Officer for Community Action Services and Food Bank, that up to 11,000 families in Utah County have been impacted by the SNAP shutdown. And the food bank expects to see an increase in daily demand of more than 5,000 pounds of food. But to your point, I have to add this. When I was volunteering at the food pantry, one of the things that they did is they would have, groups of youth maybe come in, or a family even come in and say, okay, we're going to volunteer. But there's always some kind of a pre-volunteer educational piece about why food insecurity and hunger are an issue in our community. And what they said is the numbers in Utah County, it was like 1 in 5 are food insecure. And it's people that you go to school with. So one of my neighbors was one of the co-founders of this Northern Utah one. And he said one of the things that really opened his eyes was somebody that they were attending our church congregation, and he just happened one time to ask this young man, like, how are you doing? Like, how are things going for you? And the young man told him he had a job, but it was not full time, and he was fishing in our local retention pond. And if he caught a fish, he would eat that day. And if he didn't catch a fish, he wouldn't eat. And that spurred my friend, who's Mike Carter, to say, this is a larger problem that goes invisible sometimes. So it's not just SNAP, right? It's like we mentioned before, it could be the working poor or whatever, but it is out there. And I think one of the conversations it's good to have with our families is, even if we're not struggling with food insecurity, that they definitely have people that they know that are, and they may not know that they are.
Yeah. Well, and then there might be folks who, sometimes there's a little bit of just like personal pride that goes into it. And we talked about that a little bit on the flip side, saying, you should, if you need assistance, your goal should be to like quickly get to where you don't need assistance. And we hope that's how people treat it. But that can also be a situation where people need assistance, but they either don't know how to go get those resources or they just don't want to. Right. And I mean, I remember my first television job was in Topeka, Kansas, and I had a nice 3-year TV contract, an insane contract to sign as I think about it. But, I had like a 3-year deal and some stability there. Yeah. And then the only thing they could have done that would have changed that was shut the station down. They essentially, didn't fold, but sort of shut all local programming down. And I remember at that time, thinking like, oh, well, I'm 23 or something like that, years old, 24, and newlywed. And I was like, I remember asking my dad, like, well, I don't even know, like, what am I supposed to do? And he's like, well, you've been paying into these, so if you need to, you can go file for unemployment and you can go get some help. This is sort of a different, but at least somewhat similar situation. And I remember thinking, I don't want to do that. Right. Like I want to just go get the next job. And I was able to find one before it became a real issue. But I remember thinking like that was one of those situations like, no, I don't want to go do that. I want to figure this out.
I think that's common. We know that there's dignity in work, and I do think that's common. And I think with the food bank and the food pantry, sometimes they see people who, I remember doing intake one time on a woman who was a nurse, but they'd had an unexpected expense, and it was, it had drained their budget, and she was sobbing because she did not want to be there, right? But she just needed the food. She just desperately needed it. And we're there. We wanted to help, right? Of course. So look, that's one option for tomorrow. But again, reminder, tomorrow is Election Day. And Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson joined us earlier in the show to explain what we needed to know about ballot deadlines. The new law says the vote needs to be in hand in the county clerk's hand by Election Day.
Tomorrow's Election Day. Some new laws went into effect this year. The most significant one that voters really need to know about is the fact that now, instead of having a postmark deadline for your ballot, they have an in-hand deadline for your ballot. So it used to be that you could postmark it the day before, and it would, maybe take a couple of days to get in, and that would be fine. Your ballot would still count. That law has been scrapped. That is not a thing anymore in the state of Utah. Now, your clerk actually has to have the ballot in their hand by close of polls on Election Day. So that's 8 o'clock tomorrow, which means if you have not yet voted, you can take your ballot today to a drop box. All of the cities in the state of Utah have a drop box. Go find a drop box, put it in there, or you can go vote tomorrow. You can put it in a drop box tomorrow or vote in person tomorrow, but please don't put it in the mail.
Like if you haven't mailed it, don't do it because it's not going to count. Right. So she also reminded us that local elections are of the highest importance and have the lowest turnout.
I do wish that we did have greater participation in our municipal elections. These are really important elections. These are your mayors, your city council members, local races that have a direct impact on your life. Yeah. And yet it is the lowest turnout. And that's unfortunate. But it's how it's always been. I don't necessarily see that changing, unfortunately.
Yeah. So she mentioned that turnout as of this morning was not turnout. She said the return rate for the ballots that had been sent out was somewhere around 18%, which is very low.
It is low. I wouldn't say it's like shockingly low for
I know,
municipal
it's not.
elections.
It's pretty normal for municipal.
I totally agree with what she's saying, that they're really important local ones. But, people get driven by like the hype of the event as well.
Yeah.
And it feels like you generally know when municipal elections are happening. If there's a mayoral race in Salt Lake, then I think it clues people around the state to be like, oh, is there a mayoral race this year? Otherwise, it's sort of like,
There's an
it's an
election?
odd number
Like, what is
year.
that?
We
Yeah.
don't do these.
That's true.
We do these every 4 years.
Yep.
Like even midterm elections can
Lower
get
turnout.
sort of lost in the shuffle of things. Where you're like, I don't know who's running. Do we have like is one of the senators up? I don't know. And even you and I probably have to sit here and think like, when is Lee up again? Like I have to sort of count back to wait, who was running last time there was a gubernatorial election?
Yeah, right.
So it's natural for people to go, I've just got other things going on, but everyone's got a ballot, and that ballot is not going to be long. It's probably 1 or 2 bubbles to fill out, maybe up to 4, and then to go drop it off by your public library or your city hall. Doesn't take that much effort, so hopefully people will get that done.
Yeah, down in Utah County, we have more, northern Utah County, I should specify, we have more than just municipal races. We actually have the Alpine School District split, and so we are electing the new school boards for 3 different school board I guess formations, right? So when the primary ballot hit, we had 77 candidates for 21 positions across those 3 districts. So yeah, it's a great time to go and vote. The weather's great. You can drop it off in a drop box anytime up until 8 p.m. tomorrow, or you can vote in person tomorrow. Polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Okay. Now, speaking of polls, this is a different kind of poll. 2/3 of Americans say the U.S. is pretty seriously on the wrong track, according to new national polling. And many say that both political parties are out of touch. We want to know, are we on the wrong track? What needs to change to be on the right one? Text us at 57500, and we'll be right back.
11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. Northern Utah is closing in on record warm temperatures this week. So what's causing temps to rise about 15 degrees above normal?
We just have a high pressure situating itself over the majority of the west for the long term of the period. And it's hanging on pretty good. It's a pretty strong ridge of high pressure, and it's just kind of not really wanting to budge or anything.
That's National Weather Service meteorologist Joe Worster, who says this isn't the most common thing to happen in November, but it's not unusual to see big swings of temperatures as we change between the seasons. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. We're hearing about one of Wall Street's biggest merger announcements to date just this morning.
Kimberly-Clark is buying Tylenol maker Kenvue in a cash-in stock deal worth almost $49 billion. It means the makers of Huggies diapers, Cottonelle bath tissue, and Kleenex will be a part of the same family not only as Tylenol, but Listerine, Band-Aid, and other products. Directors of the new company haven't said how they plan to counter Health Secretary Robert Kennedy's recent claims, echoed by President Trump, asserting an unproven link between the pain reliever and autism. Sherry Preston, ABC News.
Your money at this moment, the Dow is down 209 points. The S&P is up 18. And coming up, highs near the 70s next few days. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:31.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Hi, this is Doug Wright. The other day I was reading an article, and it talked about the finest restaurants around the United States. And right at the very top of the list, it was Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. And I'm quoting now. They say, high-quality food in an atmosphere that is sure to impress. Isn't that the perfect description of Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. And here in the state of Utah, we have 2 locations. Hotel Park City, that's where Dee and I celebrated our anniversary the other night, and downtown Salt Lake City at 275 Southwest Temple. And at this time of year, it's not too early to call and make your reservations for a special holiday event or a corporate party, whatever it might be. And remember, too, everybody loves a gift card from Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. It is the best meal you will ever have. You're going to love your dining experience at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse.
Let's go! You're still glowing, flirting, grooving. You still got it. But your immune system weakens as you age, making it harder to fight flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, RSV, and COVID-19. Vaccines are a key part of any health routine and help strengthen your immune response. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Schedule in minutes at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. Ever wonder why Big Wireless wants you on an unlimited plan? They probably want you to cover the cost of those 20-somethings using all that data every month. But most people 50 and up like me only use 12 gigs or less. Don't get bamboozled by Big Wireless. Switch to Consumer Cellular. Our plans start at just $20, and we use the same towers as the big guys. Join the millions who choose something better, because if you're not using all that data, you're probably getting used.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/fax. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
Jim Weber is here from Foothill Oriental Rugs. And Jim, it's always exciting to have you here because then we know it's the semi-annual sale. First of all, people have been concerned about tariffs. Have the tariffs impacted the price of your rugs?
They're going to in the future for sure. All the rugs in my inventory, the tariffs haven't impacted them at all. So these are pre-tariff prices, and our regular prices are better than anyone in town. So when we put them on sale, it's a real sale price.
So not only is it lovely to be able to come into your gallery and see and feel these rugs, but you really offer a unique experience because they can even try out some of these rugs in their home.
We'll explain different designs to you in different countries of origin. And yes, we recommend that people take rugs home to try them before they make a decision. If you've ever needed a rug, this is a great time to come in and look at rugs because our retail prices are better than the industry and average. And right now, they're marked down up to 70% off.
Don't miss out. The semi-annual sale is underway now at Foothill Oriental Rugs, 1460 South Foothill Drive, just south of Foothill Village.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America. Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape. Here's Ricky Meese.
We had an accident in Sandy on northbound I-15. All vehicles involved, including the responders, are out of traffic over on the right shoulder. This is northbound I-15 just after 106 South. Now, no lanes are blocked, but we have had a little bit of busy and slow traffic in the area. Nothing major. In fact, the rest of your Valley freeways all seeing good speeds and no problems. Celebrate the holidays with the Utah Symphony. Starting Thanksgiving weekend, sing along to the Hallelujah Chorus. Hear the angelic voices of Celtic Woman and much more. Visit utahsymphony.org/holidays. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Hazy and 69 today and tomorrow. Temperatures rise above 70 degrees on Wednesday with a bit of breeze. After that, we're back to the upper 50s through the rest of the week. Right now, 55 and partly cloudy. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
So the Trump administration plans to partially fund SNAP, and it comes after a pair of judges ruled the administration is required to keep the food aid program running. We have News Nation's Washington correspondent Joe Khalil. Joe, what does this partial funding mean?
Well, thanks for having me on. It's complicated. Food assistance to get.
Joe, we're having a little trouble hearing you.
Oh, I'm in an echo hallway. If you give me 4 seconds, I'll get to a place that is a little bit clearer. Apologies for that.
No worries.
Okay, let me know. Is it better now?
Yes.
Can you hear me better now?
Yep. You were kind of breaking up. Now I can hear you.
So what this means is that people who rely on food assistance are very likely going to get 50 to 60% of what they normally get, which is still going to be problematic, I think, for a lot of people that really rely on this for their families and their kids. Two judges, as you mentioned, essentially forced the Trump administration's hand and said, you have contingency funds, you have an emergency rainy day fund for exactly this kind of thing. You have to do it. You have to use that money. It takes about $8 billion to fund 1 week worth of SNAP benefits, or I should say one round of food assistance. Right now in that fund is about $4.5 billion. So that's why they say, okay, the judges ordered us, we're going to use this money, but it still doesn't cover everybody. So it's still a problem. It's still going to be an issue that I think is going to come up.
So one more quick question. How long will it take for those funds to actually show up on the cards for the people receiving SNAP benefits?
That is another good question, because normally how this works is it does take days. The federal government has to authorize the states to essentially release those funds, and it's not a quick process where you can snap your fingers and press a button. So we could be talking about another week. And again, if some people are paycheck to paycheck or people that rely on that money to feed their children, it may be tough. And, we've seen around the D.C. area and Virginia and Maryland that food lines have started to increase for people that were, relying on those benefits, or federal workers who've been furloughed, or those that, are not getting paid right now. So it's still, we expect some pain, unfortunately.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. That's News Nation's Washington correspondent Joe Khalil. And now we're going to talk about what we mentioned earlier, is that 2/3 of Americans say the country's pretty seriously off track, while just under a third say the country's moving in the right direction. We have ABC News Director of Polling, Emily Guskin, with more.
We see that people are not terribly thrilled about how things are going right now. When we ask them if that traditional state of the country seriously on the wrong track or in the right direction, 2/3 of Americans said that the country is pretty seriously on the wrong track. Now, that's a majority, but it's a smaller majority than right before the 2024 election, when we found that 3/4 of Americans said the country was going on the wrong track.
That's
so
that's
improvement.
A lot of people. Yeah, right. Is there? Yeah, sure.
I love
that's
poll
optimistic.
Questions,
I know.
I think that they can be. I'm the guy that starts to listen to the poll question and probably overthinks it and overanalyzes it. So when someone asks you, Holly, is the country on the right track or the wrong track? What in your mind are you answering? Are you answering are in a trajectory that we've changed, or is it sort of are we in a position that's not good? So you could be, let's say, very much on the right. You could be a MAGA person and say, hey, the country's still on the wrong track because Biden messed it up and this and that. You'd really hammer the left and say, we're not in a good position. So that's how I hear that question. But you could also hear the question and say, no, we're heading in the right direction. I love everything the president's doing, and we're heading in the right direction. And you can make the same argument and flip the characters and the parties around in that. So to me, it's you want to make a poll question as clear as you can to get the good information from it. And sometimes you can hear it and go, I don't know, because people could hear that question one of 2 or 3 different ways.
Yeah, and I think that's fair, although this specific question has been asked for a number of years under a variety of administrations. Is the country on the right track or the wrong track? And usually there's a follow-up, is your state on the right track or the wrong track, right? How's the state doing? And usually what we see is in Utah, even if people think that the country is on the wrong track, that Utah's headed in the right direction.
Yeah.
But I'll say this, and to your point, there's always partisan bias. So under Joe Biden, more Democrats were likely to say the country is on the right track, and more Republicans were likely to say it's on the wrong track. And now it's the reverse. So more Democrats and independents say the country is seriously off track, and Republicans are much less likely to say that. But we asked our listeners if they would weigh in, and you still can, of course. 57500. One says wrong track. We've lost the human and community facet of our lives in exchange for party loyalty. Another one says wrong track politically. Yes, Congress needs to do their job. And they say so much is broken, it'll take generations to repair. Another one says definitely on the wrong track as a country. It's the shutdown. Expecting people to work and not get paid is wrong. And Congress needs to pass a budget. And another one says, we are so on the wrong track. Elect new officials who will follow the Constitution and impeach people who do not.
And I would think if you asked me the question, just to clarify, if you were to say, are we on the right track or the wrong track? The way I hear that naturally is, are we headed in the right direction?
Mhm.
You know, is the momentum going in the right direction? And I would say, you know, depending on if you're a Republican and you're on the right, you'd say, yeah, there are a lot of things that I like right now that I didn't really love, you know, a year ago.
Yep.
And so I think we're heading in a better direction now. That's different than answering, are we in a good position? No, we have
Right.
a $38 trillion debt. The government is shut down at the moment. We
Right.
can't seem to, you know, figure out exactly how to handle a lot of things. So it sort of depends on how the recipient of that question, the person answering the poll, hears it.
Always. That's always. And
yeah.
it's always one pinpoint in time, right? So it could be tomorrow the shutdown ends and the answer is different.
Yep.
Right? Could be. So tomorrow, meaning Tuesday's vote, can give a glimpse maybe into how U.S. voters are reacting to President Trump's leadership so far. I think more will be in 2026, but we'll see. So here's more from ABC News Director of Polling, Emily Guskin, on President Trump's approval and how both parties may be out of touch.
His disapproval rate is ticking up. We found 59% of Americans disapproving of how he's handling the presidency. And they also blame him for a lot of things. They blame him for the rate of inflation right now. They say he's going too far to expand the power of the presidency. And they say he's out of touch with the country, most Americans. Most Americans also say Republicans are out of touch, but even more Americans say that Democrats are out of touch.
So equal opportunity offending. So we do have a texter that says we are on the wrong track under the current administration. So what do you make of approval rating polls?
Oh, I take most polls with a grain of salt until
salt.
you're actually into an election cycle.
And even then.
Yeah. I mean, I used to joke when I was in the Herbert administration that something would come up and we'd, you know, discuss what to do and what were the governor's principles on this.
Yeah.
And you know, you always talk about like the politics of it as well. And a lot of the times I found myself saying, guys, let's just do, you know, what we like, do what you think is right, because we're going to find a dozen ways to make people mad before election day. So like, let's go govern and do the best thing we have and not really worry as much about sort of the public opinion in that. Like if it starts to stack up that you're just taking loss after loss after loss, that's more concerning. But it's like, you know, most people, you're always going to be able to find a subset of people who are really upset about something.
Yeah.
And if you let that determine exactly how you govern, you're not representing the full group of people you're supposed to represent.
I remember this from years ago, reading a campaign management book that basically said God himself or herself could be on the ballot and 35% of the population would still vote against him.
Yeah.
So
That is true.
Oh, okay. Look, Marty, I'm not a huge follower of sports, but that World Series was something. So the LA Dodgers claimed the World Series win for the second year in a row in a seven-game thriller. But you say that the MLB may be shooting themselves in the foot. So we're going to talk about that when we come back.
Is your financial advisor offering you up to a 30% upfront bonus? Or are they promising you up to 10% growth per year, all for your retirement income? If not, then you need to come to Trajan Wealth. I'm Jeff Jr., founder of Trajan Wealth. If you have a plan to retire within the next 10 years, don't wait only to find out it's too late. I've seen hardworking folks like you retire only to be required to go back to work, all because their advisor told them guarantees like these were too good to be true. They're not. That's up to $30,000 upfront or up to $10,000 per year on $100,000, all guaranteed for retirement income. Don't keep working when you're supposed to be retired, and don't let any financial advisor tell you it's too good to be true. Call Trajan today, 801-207-9900. That's 801-207-9900.
Annuities, non-advisory products. DBA Trajan Wealth Insurance Solutions. Additional disclosures at TrajanWealth.com.
KSL Broadcast Group contests are open to participants 18 years of age and older that are residents of Utah, unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest may not enter. Persons who have won in the last 30, 60, or 90 days from a station contest or event may not be eligible. Full general contest rules are available at kslnewsradio.com/contests.
Here's the tale of the daily Medfill. Same old pharmacy, same old bill, but those prices kept rising higher still.
Till the savings Wrangler rode in, cool as can be. Tap GoodRx, saving massively.
No plan? Don't matter none. Up to 80% off. The deals are done.
Discounts hitting harder than Ma's chili. Dang. That one little app does all the rest.
Save time and money on prescriptions.
Check GoodRx. GoodRx is not insurance.
This message comes from Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort. Journey through the heart of Europe on an elegant Viking longship with thoughtful service, destination-focused dining, and cultural enrichment on board and on shore. With small ships that bring travelers closer to the destination, there's more time to explore. And every Viking voyage is all-inclusive, with no children and no casinos. Discover more at Viking.com.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have Leaf Filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/radio to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
To get this special radio offer, go to leaffilter.com/radio for your free gutter inspection today and get up to 30% off. That's leaffilter.com/radio for up to 30% off. leaffilter.com/radio. See representative for warranty details.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. 1 in 4 Utahns lives with a disability. Wasatch Adaptive Sports provides mobility and independence through adaptive programs and personalized support, empowering participants to lead active, fulfilling lives. Director of Development, Wes Warren, joins us with more.
This year, more individuals than ever before experienced the freedom of movement through Wasatch Adaptive Programs, and over half were first-time participants. 89% of those participants were Utah residents, our neighbors in Salt Lake and Utah counties. Research shows households with an adult who has a disability need, on average, 28% more income to reach the same standard of living as those without. 96% of the nearly 5,000 experiences delivered by us were provided at no to low cost to our predominantly low to moderate income participant base. By partnering with Wasatch Adaptive Sports, businesses support our programs while also contributing to more than 25 other local organizations, aligning with values in areas such as children's initiatives, health and wellness, and veteran services. If you're ready to elevate your marketing while making a real difference, we invite you to connect with us.
Wasatch Adaptive Sports is expanding access to adaptive activities across Utah, fostering inclusion, building confidence, and creating meaningful experiences for individuals in our community. Learn more at wasatchadaptivesports.org. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
So, again, I mentioned I don't often follow sports, but I have a son who's a big Dodgers fan, so I kind of paid attention to the World Series. And it ended in a 5-4 win on the 7th game for the LA Dodgers over the Toronto Blue Jays. So that let them score back-to-back titles after now, because they won last year, too.
Yeah, yep. Really great World Series, and the last game was, I think, everything that most baseball fans could ask for in a game, because there was baseball has turned into a lot of home run derby for the last several years, and baseball's made some changes to bring base running and base hits back in, and you saw a lot of that in that game. We had two different times. I was watching with my kids who don't watch baseball that much. And like, I don't remember ever. You can go like a month without like a force out at home plate, and we got essentially one for each team in back-to-back innings or in the same inning. So it was an exciting World Series.
So Chelsea Harvey told ABC what she witnessed was historic.
Amazing to witness history. That'll go down in history. I think 11 innings. We came back from behind, down 3 runs.
So anyway, so we could say the Dodgers win the pennant.
Yes.
All right.
A lot like Magic Johnson tweeting about it because he's a partial owner of the Dodgers, and his tweets are always very obvious, right? Like, hey, the Dodgers won the World Series last night. This was the score, and you're like, yeah, Magic, we saw.
Okay, dude, thanks. All right.
Thanks for the insight.
So tell us how the Major League Baseball might be shooting themselves.
So
in
their
the foot.
collective bargaining agreement ends on December 1st, I think, of 2026. So next year at this time, if they don't get a labor deal done, they're potentially looking at either a lockout or a player strike, depending on which side wants to initiate that. So baseball has done this a couple times in the past when it was much more in the public consciousness, and each time it kind of hurts itself and has to build itself back up. I think baseball's like on a good trajectory right now. It'll just be interesting to see if the battle between ownership and labor causes them to miss part of or all of a baseball season and ruins all of that goodwill. And essentially what they're fighting over is the owners want to put in a salary cap and the players do not want one of those. So that's the battle that we'll see coming up over the next year in baseball.
So let me ask you about Utah and baseball. Is Utah going to get an MLB team?
Most people would say right now we're down to like 3 cities to get 2 teams, Nashville, Portland, and Salt Lake City. And 2 of those are going to be winners, and 1 might be left for next time. Everything I've heard is that we're in a really great position, but most people, when they talk about it, they think of Nashville as like a certainty. And so now it comes down to 1 team between Portland and Salt Lake. That's at least what I'm hearing.
Interesting. So if we build it, they will come, right?
Well, you certainly would not want them to come and not have it built.
I know, right? I know. No, I get it. I get it. But
right,
yeah,
point,
I know they're working on it.
You've got to show that you are ready to build it, have plans to build it, have financing to build it, and have public support for it. I think Utah's done a really good job. The Miller Group has done a really good job of putting us in the best position we can be to get a team.
So what a great World Series. Okay. Today, so I do trivia at the end of our show, and so today is National Sandwich Day.
Hot dog.
Hot dogs are not sandwiches, Marty.
That's true. Hot dogs are not sandwiches, and hamburgers are not sandwiches.
Okay. Do you have? This is a little bit of trivia about sandwiches. It's believed to be the namesake of John Montagu, the 4th Earl of Sandwich, following his claim that he invented the first ever sandwich, because I think if I remember the story, he was gambling and he was gambling and he did not want to leave the table. He did not want to use cutlery. And so he asked his cook, make a meal where I don't have to use a knife and a fork and I can just keep gambling.
Sounds like his cook invented the sandwich.
It sounds like it was his cook. All right. Do you have a favorite place that you go for sandwiches?
No, I don't know if I would say like a favorite place. And I'm probably a little non-traditional in the sandwich side. Like the best sandwich you can get is like a nice grilled chicken sandwich with a good red tomato on it, some mayonnaise. That's the best sandwich. Those are a little bit harder to find though. You don't get those at a lot of sandwich shops.
Yeah, interesting.
How about you?
I don't make a lot of sandwiches anymore. I used to make them a lot for the kids, but the Garden Restaurant just reopened in the Joseph Smith Memorial Building, and I remember having some really good turkey and like cranberry sauce sandwiches there. So that's a good one. Sometimes I don't love the sandwiches that are so big you have to deconstruct them to be able to fit them in your mouth. Sometimes it feels like that's a little much sometimes. All right. Also on this day, so here's some more trivia. On this day, I want to say, hold on. We've got to go all the way back to 1793. So there was a French playwright, a woman. She was a revolutionary. She was also a feminist. She wrote something called the Declaration of the Rights of Women and of the Female Citizen. Well, she was executed by guillotine at age 45 because she angered the powers that be. So sad. Here's another election bit of trivia. So in 1868, John Willis Maynard became the first African-American elected to a congressional seat, but he never took his seat. It was an objection of his opponent who questioned his right to even hold the seat. And so in the end, the House actually left that seat vacant until the next election.
Oh,
that's how committed they were to not letting black people hold office.
So the government can kind of dig into a position. Is that what you're telling me here on day 34?
On day 34, they can dig in. This one hits really close to home, and it's much more positive. In 1896, we mentioned this with the Lieutenant Governor, Martha Hughes Cannon was elected to the state Senate in Utah. She was the first female state senator anywhere in the nation. And this was 24 years before universal suffrage was there, before we had the 19th Amendment. So if you remember the Martha Hughes Cannon story, She ran on a slate of Democrats. Her husband, Angus Cannon, ran on a slate of Republicans, and the Democrats won. So she beat her husband. And I understand there was some discontent in the Cannon household. She was actually the fourth polygamous wife, so he was rotating households. But she won, and she did some really remarkable things while she was in there, and she really focused on some of what we now consider like Utah's public health department, right? And so we have a Cannon Health building. It is named for Martha Hughes Cannon.
It sounds like her husband knew something about keeping multiple constituencies happy.
Ouch. Yes, probably. So, also, she now has a statue in Statuary Hall. So there's Brigham Young and there's Martha Hughes Cannon, who are representing the state of Utah back in D.C., which the visitor center is closed because of the shutdown. So if you get back out there when it's open, you will have a chance to see that. Okay, on this day in 1957, the Soviet Union launched the first animal into space. It was a dog named Laika, and they knew that this dog would not be returning alive, but they wanted to see if they could actually send a living animal into space before they sent a human. And the answer was yes, they could. She just didn't make it back alive.
Did the Soviets send a monkey as well, or was that
I think it might have been late. I think it was later. Yeah.
Wasn't sure if that was us or them.
Yeah.
I remember the
that
black
was
and
them.
white photos from the old World Book Encyclopedia.
That's right. So on this day in 1998, this is another bit of fun election trivia. Former wrestler Jesse the Body Ventura was elected governor of Minnesota. I remember that. It's like why are you running for politics? And wait, you run? That was weird.
and who would have thought that someone would elect a professional wrestler? I remember being a kid and people asking like Karl Malone if he was going to run for governor,
for president or governor. Yeah.
And Charles Barkley used to talk about running for governor. And back in the day, how quaint, we all thought, no, like serious people and politicians run for public office, and that has not proven to be the case in all situations.
That is correct. So this is one of the quotes of the day, excuse me, that I included in the Utah Policy Newsletter. Again, this is from Martha Hughes Cannon, and she was very prolific. Of course, she was somebody for suffrage. She was a suffragist who really spent a lot of time campaigning on women's right to vote. She only served one term. She did get pregnant and with her third child, and that was the end of that political experience, because this was after polygamy had been disavowed and it was clear that they were still a couple. But anyway, she said, "Let us not waste our talents in the cauldron of modern nothingness, but strive to become women of intellect and endeavor to do some little good while we live in this protracted gleam called life." That was Martha Hughes Cannon, one of my sheroes. All right, thanks for joining us on Inside Sources today. We were joined with Marty Carpenter. Remember to vote today or tomorrow by 8 p.m. And straight ahead, we're learning more about the woman seen in a viral video being arrested by immigration officers at Salt Lake City International Airport. Midday with Maria Chaleos has the latest on what her attorney is saying about the arrest and if it was legally justified. Stay with us.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL.
Immigration officers, and a warning, some listeners may find this audio disturbing.
No!